Chapter 1190 that was reckless. Anyone would think they have arrived at the edge of the fourth disc if they saw this. Gustav muttered. Indeed, however, you and I are aware that there is something down there. The system added. It is pretty deep, though. Gustav's eyes squinted. There was no way to tell if anyone was down there from this height, but Gustav's intuition told him there was definitely danger and fortune at the bottom, or at least on the way to it. You're not telling me everything again, right? Gustav said with a suspicious tone. Since you already know how things are, why do you still bother asking? The system retorted. TCH. Gustav proceeded to step forward at this point. Fwai, his body began to rapidly fall through the air into the depths of the unknown. Surprisingly, as he descended, the darkness had reduced due to the glowing lines which he occasionally phased through during his descent. However, mist became visible upon further descent, which became denser and denser, impairing visual capabilities. The mist around him had become too dense that one couldn't even see their own body, but Gustav's high perception made it. So this wasn't a problem. 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet, 50,000 feet. It felt like Gustav had been falling for ages, but he didn't wish to increase his speed just yet because he was unaware of what to expect. 100,000 feet, 110,000 feet, 120,000 feet, 140,000 feet, 160,000 feet, 200,000 feet, 300,000 feet. As Gustav continued to descend, he began to feel moist. Usually the dense fog was enough to make one feel moist, but this was different. Gustav suddenly felt himself phase through a shower of liquid. Where did that come from? He was still falling through the air, so he was dumbfounded as to how liquid appeared in midair. As he fell further, he could feel drizzles on his body. His perception picked up on a floating waterfall far towards the east. He was still very far from the bottom of wherever this led, yet a giant body of water was falling from midair. 400,000 feet, Gustav kept falling, but the instant he crossed the 200,000 feet mark, he suddenly felt an intense pressure. Fire! His body began to fall faster, like the gravitational laws had changed. An impending sense of danger assaulted his senses as his body got pulled further downwards. He was falling 4 times faster than before. At this point, Gustav finally decided to do something. Hover has been activated. His body paused in midair, defying the unexpected change in gravitational force. He could finally sense a kind of distortion thousands of feet below. There's something wrong there. Gustav grabbed a snack from his storage space and dropped it. Fwai, God Eyes has been activated. His sight followed the snack as it dropped like a rock despite its small size. When it reached the distance where Gustav sensed the distortion, the green-colored snack turned monochrome before disappearing. Gustav could see that he hadn't gotten to the bottom of this place. In fact, it seemed like he was still a far distance, yet the snack disappeared instead of continuous descent. Gustav dropped another after moving a couple of feet towards the right, and the same thing happened. It's not transporting them to another dimension or anything, the system voiced. Yeah, I can tell. It doesn't give off any spatial energy. Whatever is down there instantly erased them from existence, Gustav muttered. Looks like you're not so dumb after all. The system chuckled. Wind, fog, rain. Nothing can get past that point, and we still haven't arrived at the bottom, Gustav added. His perception picked this up due to the wind, water, and fog disappearing the instant they crossed that particular juncture. What are you going to do? The system inquired. It's pretty simple. I can still see beyond that point. So it means that even if it has the capacity to erase things from existence, wind, rain, fog, seeing through means, it is unable to erase light. Most likely cause light is too fast, Gustav voiced lengthily. You're not as fast as light, though, the system pointed out. True, but I don't need to be that fast. I just need to be fast enough to move past that point before I get erased from existence. From the looks of things, it's only a layer, Gustav explained. And do you know how fast you are meant to move, or you're just going to gamble with your live? I praised you too fast. You're still dumb. The system stated with a tone of ridicule. The gamble of death brings a certain thrill, doesn't it? A smirk appeared on Gustav's face. No, I am uninterested in engaging in such foolishness. Find me another host if you're seeking death. The system yelled as it appeared in holographic format before Gustav. He were in this together. A mad expression of excitement appeared on Gustav's face, causing the system's human, but holographic look to pale. ×2 power boost has been activated. Ultimate combination has been activated. Immense energy radiated from Gustav's being as he began to rapidly transform, his skin turning silverish and a hint of gold with long horns, muscular frame, and pointy 16 feet long tail. SSHHSHHSHHH. The fog surrounding him were swept away, restoring visibility to the vicinity. As the energy his figure exuded climbed to the peak, Gustav stared down and activated another ability. Lightning Blitz has been activated. His figure turned into a streak of lightning that disappeared downwards in less than an instant. Gustav had never activated Lightning Blitz in this form before, so the speed was like nothing he had ever reached. Thrir-rai-rai, a loud sound of collision reverberated across the vicinity as the lightning strike turned a little pale when it reached a point below, before returning to its original color. A small crack had appeared at that point, but soon disappeared afterwards. Gustav had managed to cross almost 2 million feet in a single second. It was the fastest he had ever gone, and although he was a little hindered when he arrived at the erasing layer, he managed to break past that point. Fwaiwai, Thrara, Gustav returned to his initial state after reaching a particular distance down and stared at his surroundings. You lost an arm, the system stated. It will grow back. Gustav responded with an unbothered tone, ignoring the fact that he was currently missing a left arm. That was reckless. The system nagged. I know, Gustav replied once more with an unfazed tone. Looking around him now, he could see floating diamond-like platforms in midair all across the place. The bottom of this location was still quite a distance away, but Gustav could finally sense it with his perception. Oh, it is packed, Gustav muttered with a tone of wariness. Yes, frost rakens are everywhere, the system stated. More than that, there are other creatures that are not on the surface, and that place. Gustav voiced, while staring in a particular direction. From his current height, nothing could be seen downwards, but with his perception, he was able to make out dark ridges, floating fiery mountains, and frost mountains in different areas. Caves as well as territorial regions where unknown-looking creatures could be seen in droves. Going down, there was like trying to commit suicide. It was practically a haven of monstrosities. The creatures numbered in hundreds of thousands, and each one was incredibly dangerous. Even the frost rakens in the floating frosted mountains were very high-leveled compared to ones on the surface. This wasn't something Gustav just wanted to jump into. However, now it makes sense why this place harbors so much danger, Gustav voiced as his sight focused on a particular item on the peak of a floating mountain. Ready-made viander eggs, the system girly voice uttered. And there are numerous of them in this place. How come the handler never mentioned this? Gustav wondered, but immediately had multiple theories appear in his mind, which gave him the answers he needed. One of the theories included how multiple participants would lose their lives if they came into contact with such a place after being aware that there were viander eggs down here. If there was a way to skip gathering 7 colored eggs and heading to a designated point to make a single viander egg, everyone would be eager to try it out regardless of how dangerous it would be. Gustav recalled one thing Handler One mentioned. There are still a couple of mysteries, but the rest will be left for you youngsters to uncover by yourselves. Gustav decided to push all the unnecessary questions to the back of his mind for now, as he focused on the main task ahead. I need to get some viander eggs without being noticed or gathering as low attention as possible to myself, he stated. Looking at the current situation, it seemed nearly impossible to get hold of any viander egg without attracting the attention of the waves of monsters down there. Follow current novels on topnovelful.com. Chapter 1191, looking at the current situation. It seemed nearly impossible to get hold of any viand or egg without attracting the attention of the waves of monsters down there. Despite Gustav's current strength, it wasn't smart to attract the attention of thousands upon thousands of powerful monsters. This is the best time to use that. A grin appeared on Gustav's face as he leapt towards one of the massive diamond-looking floating platforms. Back off! Accompanied with a loud yell, a wave of darkness blasted across a radius of nearly 30,000 feet. The frosty-looking trees in the vicinity were instantly decimated as they blasted to smithereens while the mountains crumbled. For illusionary-looking figures with multiple limbs and shadowy beings hovering above them stood in the midst of the blast, nearly unaffected. That is impressive, Earthling. However, if you do not hand over the eggs, we will not spare you, one of the figures who had a dark and massive being hovering over her stated with a threatening tone. As a fellow leading planet of the Alliance, we are trying to be nice here. So just comply, another one of the 4 Draconets stated. It is mine. Come and take it if you dare, Falco responded as the mark of darkness on his forehead grew. Don't blame us for being forceful. Another Draconet with a 14 feet tall shadowy being hovering over him yelled before charging. The other 2, who also had odd-looking shadowy beings behind them, charged forward as well. FYI, the first to arrive before Falco was the shadowy being built like a minotaur behind the female Draconet participant. Kaya! Glowing beams appeared in its mouth and eyes as it forcefully swung both fists in a clapping format, attempting to crush Falco's fragile-looking figure in between its massive hands. Fireurch, 2 dark hands bursted forth from Falco's sides, stopping both fists before they could make contact with him. At the same instant, one of the Draconets appeared from above as both him and his shadowy being hacked downwards with glowing blades. More dark hands phased out of Falco's figure, and this time with claws as they slashed upwards to meet with the glowing blades. Bang, 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 clang, clang, clang. The battle had only begun a few moments ago, yet the surroundings were already in a state of destruction. The other 2 Draconets has ambushed Falco from behind, and at this point Falco had to turn around to block and attack himself. Bang, bang. Throwing a couple of fists at their real selves, the female Draconet blocked Falco's attacks, while the 4th Draconet participant sent 4 arms swinging towards Falco at the same time. Falco managed to jump backwards, dodging the onslaught of multiple limbs, but he still had to focus due to the shadowy beings that had hovered above the Draconets. Multiple hands swung towards his back the instant he landed on his feet, which he quickly deflected with more dark arms phasing out of his being. Bang, 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 bang. Falco barely managed to dodge their hits, and was slowly starting to take damage without being able to successfully land a single attack on any of them. The longer the Draconets engaged Falco, the more he kept getting pushed back. Since they were not in any way weak, one of them managed to land a hit on him. Bang! Falco's figure was sent flying, and at this same moment, one of the gigantic shadowy figures, which was up to 200 feet tall, descended upon him from above. Boom! Destructive shockwaves spread across the vicinity, bringing along cracks as the already decimated surroundings caved in even more. The massive shadowy being stood in place with a condescending gaze as the Draconets heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, that Earthling got crushed. Good job, Cyrilla. They praised the female Draconet, who happened to be the anchor of the massive shadowy being that stomped Falco. Shiva, then Cyrilla was about responding when her face froze. Blared, she vomited a mouthful of green blood in the next instant. Cyrilla, Shiva yelled just as a loud, ripping sound reverberated across the air. Thrurahutch, a figure tore through the massive 200 feet shadowy being from the bottom to the top, causing it to slowly dissipate like smoke. Falco could be seen hundreds of feet above, after ripping through the shadowy figure. The dark mark on his forehead increased in size as he descended with a look of anguish. "So that is your weakness," Falco muttered as dark wings sprouted out of his back. Fwaiwiai stretching his right hand to the side. A massive blade of darkness phased out, and he slashed forward the instant he arrived before the Minotaur-built shadowy being. Roalfa the Alpha and Nuomth being tried to counter by shooting out pillars of beams from its mouth and eyes, but Falco evaded swiftly with his slash, traveling forward intensely. Thrira, the head of the Minotaur-built shadowy being was cleanly severed, as it slowly dissipated after the damage just like the last one. Another one of the Draconids, with orange-shaped stars all across his body, puked out a mouthful of blood as he fell to his knees. "Two down, two to go," Falco muttered as he turned to face the third. "The bastard is going for our Cours. Stop him!" Shiva yelled to the other one as they turned illusionary and leapt into the air. "Phew-um, phew-um!" Falco was met with resistance as he arrived before the third shadowy being. The other two Draconids had arrived by his sides and were sending out fist strikes. 8 fists were approaching different parts of his body at the same time from the sides, while he had already conjured up a powerful attack for the shadowy being in front of him. Falco could tell that if these shadowy beings received a certain level of damage, they would disappear, and their bearers would also take damage. He had 2 choices at the moment: go on with the attack and cause the third Encore to disappear, or block the attacks of the 2 on his sides. While he could try to do both, if he made use of lesser force due to trying to defend, when striking the Encore, it would still be standing, and it would make the Draconids more careful. Falco decided to put more power into his attack, as the dark blade, phasing out of his side, turned into a gigantic claw, which he swung down upon the 32-legged shadowy being in front of him. Slosh! Bang! 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 The entire shadowy being was cleaved into multiple halves as the ground split open from the intensity of the strike. However, at the same instant, bang, 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 multiple fists slammed into Falco's body, sending him flying like a rag doll as blood oozed out of his nose and mouth. Blerg, one of the 2 Draconids who had just successfully landed hits on him, puked blood in midair and began falling to the ground as he turned lightheaded. "Pula!" Shiva yelled with a tone of exasperation as he descended swiftly and caught his teammate before he landed on the ground. Bang! 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 Falco's body slammed into multiple trees thousands of feet away as he got blasted away, causing them to snap and break into smithereens. Thrira! Dark tentacle like strings shot out of his body and stabbed into the ground, forcefully bringing his body to a halt before he could break through any more things. Core! Core! Falco coughed twice, staining his outfit with blood. One left, his heavy breathing slowly reduced as his body descended. He stepped on the ground and slowly stood to his feet. "You will pay for harming my teammates," Silva yelled from up ahead. "You should have thought twice before coming after me." Falco spat blood to the side with a look of determination. The shadowy figure behind Shiva grew in size, becoming more muscular as it sprouted more limbs with glowing blades in its grasp. Tuhush! Tuwoosh! They charged at each other in the next instant, sending ripples of destruction across the vicinity. "It's working. You're only lucky. This would have gone way worse if you didn't have this. You can't just admit that I'm smart. That would mean I am feeding your delusion if I did." Fuck you, a snake-like whitish creature could be seen flying upwards across the side of a frosty mountain. Its physical features were no different from that of a frost Riken, so even with the hundreds of frost Rakens swimming in the air around this floating frosty mountains, it blended in with them. Although it wasn't as massive as they were, it was no doubt a kindred. The creature soon arrived at the summit of the floating frosted mountain, which happened to have a multicolored 3 feet tall egg sitting atop it. Here comes the tricky part. So long as I am fast enough, they shouldn't notice the switch. The smaller frost Rykin approached the multicolored egg, which happened to be a Viander egg. Chapter 11, 92:30 seconds, countdown. The smaller frost Rykin approached the multicolored egg, which happened to be a Viander egg. Although the other frost Rykins in the vicinity were not suspicious, they still had eyes on the Viander egg. The smaller frost Rykin flew around the Viander egg and kept circulating for a period of time. Fish mist was instantly formed around the egg, impairing the vision of the frost Rykins around. Usually the frost Rykins would have enhanced capabilities whenever they were close to anything cold, so a mist wasn't supposed to impairing their vision. However, this mist wasn't formed from frost or coldness. It was a different type of mist. The frost Rykins became suspicious at this point and flew into the mist after a few seconds. The mist began to die down at this point, and when they were finally able to see the summit of the floating frosted mountain again, nothing was out of place. The Viander egg remained seated atop. However, the smaller frost Rykin was nowhere to be found. The other frost Rykins just assumed it flew somewhere else during the mist covering, so they still didn't think much of it. Minutes later, a figure appeared more than 10,000 feet away from the floating frosted mountain. He stood above a massive floating diamond-like platform with a Viander egg in his grasp. "That was easy," Gustav muttered. "Only because you were smart enough to acquire the form of a frost Rykin initially," the system voiced. "Even with that, it would have caused alarm had I not exchanged it with a fake," Gustav stated. Before Gustav took on the form of a frost Rykin, he did a little painting with a white egg he had taken from one of the caves. White wasn't one of the required eggs to make a Viander egg, but Gustav had taken this one, just like he took many others that would be considered useless as well. Cases like this was where the usefulness of these colors of eggs came into place. Gustav painted the egg to look just like a Viander egg and replaced it with the one at the summit of the frosted mountain. From the moment he stirred up the mist, he was already gone. He had made use of his cognitive concealment ability to mask his presence. One more Viander egg successfully acquired, Gustav stated before keeping the egg in his storage button. "Going after the others won't be as easy," the system voiced. "I know, especially since I don't have the forms of the other creatures." Gustav turned to stare in the southwest direction. A platform growing out from the rocky wall in the distance looked like the massive floating diamond, like rock, he was currently standing on. However, this one seemed to be stationed on the wall for times as large as a skyscraper and had an entrance. Creatures who only had a massive owl-shaped head for a body and thin but gigantic fowl-like wings could be seen flying around the entry point. Besides this, they had sharp claws for beaks, and their legs looked like it could easily rip a person in two like paper. While it looked like there were only about 30 in number flying around the entry point, Gustav's perception had picked up on the high numbers that were nestling within the platform. They were over 50,000 feet from his location. Yet Gustav's perception had infiltrated their territory to the point where he could already tell where the Viander egg was. Why do they all keep the Viander eggs like it's some kind of trophy? This was amongst Gustav's many questions. On the surface, the frost Rykins protected the required eggs to form a Viander egg like it was their child, and here, thousands upon thousands of creatures protected just a single Viander egg. Gustav couldn't complain. He had managed to save days of wandering up there by getting a single Viander egg. He didn't want to be too greedy, but one wasn't enough. Zing! A circular metal-like button appeared in Gusta's grasp, and he proceeded to put it on his forehead. Cognitive concealment has been activated. Gustav's presence completely disappeared to the point one wouldn't be able to tell if he was even around them unless they directly set eyes on him. His footsteps made no sound. If he tapped on anything, it made no sound. His speed also made no sound, as it would always generate whooshes. Everything was masked. "It'll have approximately 30 seconds to get in there and take the Viander egg out before I am spotted," Gustav stated as he tapped the button on his forehead. His entire figure instantly turned invisible. Now he was at a near-perfect state of concealment. Gustav's body transformed as he leapt into the air. Dash has been activated. The timer had started counting down. There was no sound as he arrived before the entrance of the diamond-like platform only a second after the countdown had started. 29 seconds, wings sprouted out of his back in his invisible state as he glided across the air, evading the creatures around the entrance so as not to make contact with them. Oh, so they're called Ziafanos. Gustav took note of the species name as he flew into the diamond-like platform. The instant he got in, flashes of bright reflections assaulted his eyes. The gravitational force within the diamond-like platform shifted, causing Gustav to bear the weight of 100 tons. Gustav was surprised by the shift and paused for a bit as the pressure bore down on him. However, the weight was really nothing, and he resumed flying a moment later, since it had only startled him a little. The Ziafanos kept flying across the place, unrestrained by the difference in gravitational force between the exterior and the interior. This made Gustav realize that these creatures would be very fast, so he had to be careful, so as not to attract their attention. 25 seconds, the scenery within the diamond-like platform was quite inexplicable. It looked much larger on the inside compared to how anyone would have thought. The shards and icicle-shaped objects reflecting rays of light across the vicinity could be seen hanging from the rocky walls and even the ground. However, one stood out the most. "It's up there," Gustav said internally as he stared at the massive shard in the middle of the Ziafanos' territory. This shard was so massive, it towered high up, reflecting blinding rays across the entire vicinity. Due to its height, the ceiling of this diamond platform was thousands of feet above. Swarms of Ziafanos flew around the massive shard, similar to how the frost rakens were flying around the floating frosty mountain earlier. Just as initially calculated, there were over 10,000 of them flying around the shard, and even more just moving about the place. The space within their territory was like a mini-city. Despite the increment in gravitational force, Gustav flew upwards with speed. He was well aware of his limited time and didn't want to waste even a second. The usual vibrational waves and turmoil his speed would cause the environment had all been masked by the cognitive concealment ability, and the invisibility button just made things smoother. However, as Gustav flew higher, he noticed the difference in gravitational force. For every 50 feet scaled, the pressure would increase by 100 tons. Gustav noticed this when his speed decreased after scaling up to 1,000 feet in an instant. He knew that with his current speed, he would be way faster, but then the pressure was already bearing the weight of up to 2,000 tons, while still maintained flight. The Ziafanos who were higher up still flew around the shard unrestrained, which was quite surprising to Gustav. With this, he realized that the ones lower were weaker than the ones at a higher height. If Gustav got noticed, the chances of escaping would be quite low, considering he would be spotted by their strongest first. 23 seconds, Gustav's brain processed information very quickly, so he already well aware of the current situation. He increased his speed and flew even higher, fighting against the pressure. By the time Gustav scaled 2,000 feet, he felt like he was carrying an entire city on his shoulders. He suddenly and swiftly swerved backwards, dodging the massive body of a Ziafano that changed trajectory in midair, nearly bumping into him. The creatures were more up to 300 feet large. Gustav's size compared to theirs was like a grasshopper standing beside a human. 21 seconds, he resumed flight upwards after distancing himself a bit from the area of the swarm circulating the shard. Bearing the force of more than 2 million kilograms upon his entire being, Gustav kept flying upwards till he was on a couple hundred feet away from the top. He could finally spot the Viander egg above, firmly seated on the tip of the massive shard. 19 seconds, follow current novels on top novelful. Com. Chapter 11, 93. He could finally spot the Viander egg above, firmly seated on the tip of the massive shard. 19 seconds, despite the immense size of the massive shard reflecting a blinding glow across the territory. Its tip was as thin as a needle. It was quite surprising that a 3 feet large egg sat upon such a thin surface, looking incredibly balanced. At this height, only around 100 Ziaphanos could be seen circulating the shard. These ones also moved unrestrained, so Gustav could tell they were the most powerful in the whole territory. From what he sensed, taking a single one of them in a battle would be cumbersome. Not to talk more of when there were more than 100. Gustav wasn't breathing at this point, as he made sure to move discreetly as possible. He covered the rest of the height in about a second, and calculated that he had around 18 seconds left. Based on the timing, he had only a second or two to get the Viander egg, and leave the same way he got in. The problem wasn't having enough energy to keep cognitive concealment active, or not having enough invisibility buttons. The issue was the moment the invisibility button he currently had on his forehead ran out of power, he would turn visible for an instant even if he was to quickly take out another and place it on his forehead. That split instant was enough to bring attention to himself, and he wasn't willing to take the risk, so he wanted to make sure he got out before the timer counted down completely. The Viander egg was only a few feet in front of him at this point. Gustav had decided to use a similar tactic like before to cause a momentary visual disruption and switch the egg with a fake. SSHSHHSSHHHHHH. Mist began erupting from his figure in his still invisible figure, which of course drew the attention of the Ziaphanos in the vicinity. However, Gustav was still invisible, and the mist spread so quickly there was no way to ascertain the source. Gustav moved quickly and reached for the Viander egg as a fake appeared in his grasp. He was only about 30 centimeters away from making contact, when he suddenly felt a strange energy ripple forth before he could touch the Viander egg. "You just triggered some," the system voiced, but it was too late. Boom! A yellow-colored blast was sent forth, which pushed Gustav, as well the mist in the environment, backwards. The entire territory quaked intensely as the invisibility button on Gustav's forehead smoked and sparked with electricity. Sigh, Gustav let out sigh of defeat as the massive eyes of the Ziaphanos turned to his direction and focused on him. He was very visible at the moment, and marked by the yellowish energy that just blasted forth, which happened to cause him to glow intensely as if announcing that an intruder had infiltrated. I didn't sense that. Gustav forehead creased as he thought. It didn't exist a moment ago. It seems to be the ability of one of the Ziaphanos. The system words explained why Gustav didn't sense any trap of sorts. Phew! This wasn't the time to go into analysis, so Gustav's quickly bolted forward and grabbed hold of the Viander egg. "How dare you?" The Ziaphano closest to the tip roared. "They can speak," Gustav voiced with a tone of surprise. "You will die here, vermin." Another one of the Ziaphanos yelled as they all charged at Gustav. Now wasn't the time to be in awe of the intelligence of the Ziaphanos who currently had it out for him. Gustav initially planned to make use of his dimensional bracelet if things went south, but he currently couldn't, despite having put a checkpoint outside the Ziaphanos' territory where one of the diamond floating platforms was located. He couldn't use the dimensional bracelet, or the crushing weight of the gravitational force would destroy it. He had somehow positone his body in a way that the dimensional bracelet would not be affected by the gravitational force, which was making him bear the weight of nearly 3,000 tons. If he tried to make use of the dimensional bracelet right now, it would get crushed. Fwai. The Ziaphanos charged at Gustav with intense speed that clearly surpassed his despite their massive size. Zing! After sending the Viander egg to his storage device, Gustav's wing rescinded into his back, causing him to free fall. Swai! The Ziaphanos quickly changed trajectory and flew after his falling body. Despite his body descending like a falling star, the Ziaphanos soon caught up to him and clawed at his body in a bid to rip the intruder to pieces. Gustav's right arm transformed, becoming black, scaly, and muscular as he grew 3 pairs of sharp-looking claws which he proceeded to swung upwards in response to the massive talons ripping at him. Xian, clang, roal fidialpha enu omupon collision. A sharp and intense metallic sound of collision rang through the vicinity, sending forth shock waves alongside. The territory quaked, once more alarming the rest of the Ziaphanos around, after Gustav's claws collided with the talons of the Ziaphano that first arrived before him. Twawaya! Gustav's body shot downwards even faster than before as he had made use of this collision to escape the encirclement of the Ziaphanos. Bang! The instant Gustav landed on the ground, which hadn't even been a second yet, he sped forward in the direction of the entrance. However, the entire place was already swarming with Ziaphanos who were headed for the entrance as well, and Gustav's speed was lacking compared to theirs. Swoosh! Sprouting wings once more, Gustav activated as many speed-related skills as he could to boost his flight, leaving a trail of white blur across the air. Gustav arrived at the entry point in less than a second, since he was no longer carrying the weight of almost 3,000 tons. Unfortunately, the entry point happened to be packed with hundreds of Ziaphanos who were already aware of the intruder in their midst. They all bit and clawed at Gustav intensely as he approached them. Haven't used this in a while, but it should help. A red-hilted katana with dark blade appeared in Gustav's grasp. The instant he held onto it, a wave of alarmingly powerful energy was sent across the surrounding like a warning. Electric arcs coated the blade of this katana as it glowed intensely, increasing the unease in the environment. Gustav raised this katana with vigor and slashed down at the incoming Ziaphanos blocking the entry point. Alpha di Alpha Theta Nu Epsilon, a disastrous red arc, hundreds of feet long, swept forward with intensity, carrying lightning streaks with it after Gustav slid downwards. Boom! The entire Ziaphanos territory rumbled fiercely as the red arc cut through the first Ziaphano in its path, as well as destroying the entry point by making it even larger than it originally was. Multiple Ziaphanos were blasted backwards as lightning streaks also spread to them, burning a few of their feathers. The Ziaphanos happened to have very sturdy bodies, so only 3 Ziaphanos who were directly in the path of the arc had been sliced into 2 scorched halves, while the others were barely incapacitated. The space that had been left in between gave Gustav the opportunity to fly out of their territory. Zii, Zitzii, Zii. 3 massive talons suddenly appeared above Gustav the instant he arrived outside the territory, slashing down at him vigorously. Gustav didn't even have the chance to blink as he realized he had already been surrounded by up to 60 massive Ziaphanos, and more were incoming. These were the Ziaphanos who were at the topmost part of the shard. They had instantly caught up with Gustav the moment he managed to get past the entry point. They were insanely fast. However, now that Gustav was out of the intense gravitational force area, he was confident in escaping their onslaught. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Thriri has. Gustav turned into a lightning streak and disappeared straight into the east direction, tearing right through the wing of one of the Ziaphanos. He instantly reappeared 800,000 feet away from his initial location. He heaved a sigh of relief after successfully escaping far from the angry Ziaphanos. He had given them a very wide distance, but so as not to take any chances, Gustav decided to activate Lightning Blitz 2 times more. Thriri has. He was now millions of feet away from their territory, practically in another area entirely. Gustav looked around and noticed this area was a little misty but had a weird-looking structure erected on the ground thousands of feet below. He was about to head downwards when he felt a sudden shift in the atmosphere. It sounded like a ripping sound that grew increasingly louder by the millisecond. Thriri has. Gustav's eyes widened as dark streaks cut across the air in the distance and arrived across him. These streaks with the same massive Ziaphanos guarding the top of the massive shard he had stolen the vine or egg from. Shit. The reason POVs get switched occasionally is so that you guys can get faint updates of different scenarios occurring in variety of locations across the fourth disc. If you guys prefer only Gustav's POV during the challenge, let me know in the comments section. Also, follow me on TikTok, Timvic_. Chapter 11, 94 Gustav versus the Ziaphanos. Shit. Gustav had suspected that they would be extremely fast the moment they left the intense gravitational force area. However, he hadn't expected that they would be anything remotely close to this speed. They followed you, the system voiced. Thanks, Captain Obvious. You don't think I know that? Gustav nearly yelled this out loud. No, I mean they. The system was about to add something else when Gustav activated another lightning streak. Three-has. There's no point, look behind you. I know, Gustav voiced as he turned around to see black streaks appear before him, once more after scaling close to 1,000,000 feet in 1 second. They are. The system was about to add something once more when the Ziaphanos reached, for Gustav, die vermin. One of them yelled, Swee, why. They were extremely fast, causing their slashes to send sharp and massive arcs forward that tore through the air. Gustav's body bloated a little and turned greenish, as Iroh silk sprouted out of his body like spikes, covering him up. Bang, 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 slash. Multiple sounds of heavy collisions rang out as the Iroh silk along with Gustav got blasted backwards intensely. They traveled speedily across the air with the Iroh silk crumbling to little pieces as Gustav crashed through multiple diamond, like floating platforms. The hundreds of Ziaphanos flew after him in order to make sure they finished the job, but the instant they got close to the diamond, like floating platform, Gustav's body was embedded in. An intimidating energy spread forth. Gustav had used ultimate combination. He climbed out of the hole his body got embedded into with a powerful energy cascading forth from his being. The air rippled continuously as it felt like space was twisting due to the strength of the form he had just taken. The Ziaphanos were well aware that the so-called vermin they were looking at was no ordinary being. However, they seemed confident in their numbers. Kill him and take back the Sifa, one of them yelled as they charged forward. This is troublesome. I guess I have no choice. Gustav charged in their direction as well. He wasn't ready to leave this place yet, and there was no guarantee that he could use the dimensional bracelet to return fast. Time was a luxury, each as powerful as level 250 mixed breeds. Gustav had to admit he had never done something so crazy before. Level 250 mixed breeds were quite rare on Earth, and each of them were extremely powerful. Their strength was equivalent to a beta-ranked mixed blood, and yet he was going against more than 100 of them at once. Swoosh, the first 3 Ziaphanos that arrived before Gustav swung their talons at him. Gustav reached out to grab the first one while his hands were coated with milky-colored energy. The talons, which could easily rip an entire city in two, just from the wind generated with its slashes, were stopped by Gustav. FYI, he spun to the right and flinging the entire massive 500 feet large creature in the direction of his associate. Ki-Yaif? The Ziaphano cried out as its associate talons ripped through its right wing. White blood squirted out like a fountain, while the Ziaphano fell from great heights, unable to make use of its damaged wing. Bang! At the same instant, the sharp talons of the third Ziaphanos slammed into Gustav from behind. FYI. Fortunately, he had conjured Iroh silk behind him. However, the Iroh silk crumbled instantly upon collision, sending him flying across the air for hundreds of feet. In his years of using the Iroh silk, this was the first time any creature was able to damage it with just a single strike. The Ziaphanos were truly fearsome creatures. Gustav had taken a little damage from that hit despite the Iroh silk, but he quickly stopped himself in midair as he was flying towards the triple claw's beak of another Ziaphano. Truriioan. A massive destructive dark and purplish energy beam formed in the mouth of the Ziaphano he had stopped before. With the way the air trembled, Gustav could tell that this was no ordinary attack. Whoosh! He sped forward and swung his fist upwards with intensity. Boom! It sounded like a thunderbolt as Gustav's fist slammed into the jaw of the Ziaphano, causing its entire head to tilt backwards while it got catapulted away by the force. Thoum, the energy it was initially gather, exploded in its beak, causing the head of the Ziaphano to explode into smithereens. Boom! The residual energy blasted across the place, sending forth charges that also slammed into Gustav. Being small has both advantages and disadvantages, Gustav realized, as the Ziaphanos around were not in any way affected by the blast. The Ziaphanos had swung out their talons once more, causing Gustav to quickly create Iroh silks. Bang! 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 Gustav puked blood as his body got blasted thousands of feet away after the Iroh silk he constructed around himself repeatedly crumbled. The Ziaphanos were unrelenting, and he had only taken out about 3 of them so far. There were still in the hundreds. Take on someone of your own size, Gustav muttered as he cleaned his mouth. So his body suddenly began to lengthen, along with his silver scales and muscular arms. His horns grew very large along with his tail as well. The glowing light on his forehead also increased in size as well. The Ziaphanos were stupefied. Once more. It looked like the so-called vermin had more tricks underneath his sleeves. Gustav reached out to the closest Ziaphano with his right arm, glowing yellowish. Bang! He slammed his fist onto the head of the Ziaphano, causing it to get hurled thousands of feet backwards as a mark appeared on its body. Boom! An explosion from the mark sent the Ziaphano hurling further backwards as it cried out in pain. Other Ziaphanos didn't wait for him to approach them before bearing their talons once more upon him. Now that he was larger, it was easier for them to attack him. Bang! 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 Gustav moved as quickly as he could across the air, throwing multiple fists at the Ziaphanos while also receiving the full brunt of the attack from the ones at his flank. The creatures were faster than he was, but he had no trouble striking blows due to his perception that let him predict their movements. However, he couldn't dodge all of their attacks either. The battle was becoming incredibly destructive and brutal as time passed. Boom! 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 Every single Ziaphano that Gustav managed to make contact with bore a small mark that exploded after some time. This caused the Ziaphanos to take more damage as time passed, but Gustav was also very injured as well. Thias. Gustav slashed at multiple massive, destructive, and dark purplish energy beams shot from the mouth of Ziaphanos. Each of them were as large as skyscrapers, causing the air to twist and turn, but Gustav struck them with massive atomic blades. Boom, boom, boom. They couldn't all be countered. And the explosion sent destructive ripples across the air. Energy dispersal, Gustav muttered, as the atomic blades vanished from his grasp, and he clasped his palms together. Thunk! A red wave of energy blasted forth from his being, colliding with the explosion. Multiple floating diamond-like platforms crumbled to dust as the ripples repelled everything within a radius of more than 100,000 feet. Gustav's figure vanished and reappeared behind a Ziaphano that was hurling across the air due to the blast. Grabbing hold of its neck, Gustav forcibly ripped its head from its body and flung it in the direction of another Ziaphano. The creatures were very sturdy, but it was nothing compared to Gustav's natural body defense. Another Ziaphano clawed Gustav's from the side, piercing a little into his shoulder, but it got stuck. Gustav reached out and grabbed the 2 other Ziaphanos that had attacked from the front, which talons were lodged in his bleeding body. Arars! Gustav screamed loudly, causing sonic waves to blast forth from his mouth. Bang! The 2 Ziaphanos in front of him got sent flying across the air as the sonic waves caused their organs to shatter from the inside out. Reaching back to grab the Ziaphano that had clawed into his sides, Gustav held onto its beak and forcefully ripped the head of the creature open. Blood splattered across the place as Gustav realized he had already taken down about 40 of them. However, there were still a little over 70 left, and he had expended a lot of energy. "I don't want to use cosmic superiority," Gustav said internally as he flew upwards while the others chased after him. "It's not like you haven't used it before," the system responded in his head. "On a small scale, yes, but with these creatures, you'll have to use it on a large scale, but am actively trying to avoid that," Gustav replied internally as he activated Lightning Blitz once more. "Thrir ahas, you can't escape from them using this bee." "I know. Follow current novels on topnovelful.com. Chapter 1195 Thrir ahas, you can't escape from them using this bee. "I know. They're fast, although their speed is quite inconsistent. At the very least, it gives me 1 second to collect my thoughts," Gustav voiced out as he reappeared close to 1,000,000 feet away. "I was going to tell you that they're not that fast. They just tag onto your energy with an ability they possess, which also lets them reappear wherever you are when you activate Lightning Blitz," the system stated. "What? Why didn't you tell me?" Gustav voiced with a slightly surprised tone. To Gustav, this explained why their speed was inconsistent. The Ziaphanos were still really fast, but their speed was not a match for Lightning Blitz during Gustav battles with them. If they could move that fast every time, the battle would have gone in a completely different direction. Gustav had noticed the inconsistency and chalked it up to something related with acceleration. He thought they could only do it at specific periods and not limitlessly. Now, it turned out they only tagged along with him whenever he made use of it. Knowing this information wasn't of great use to Gustav, since he wasn't aware of any means of stopping them from following him after Lightning Blitz activation. "Looks like I will have to use that. What better time to test out its effectiveness than now?" Gustav voiced. As he made his decision, the 1 second he had to collect his thoughts were up. Thrir's black streaks tore through the air, and with it bore the arrival of the Ziaphanos. Gustav stood in place as they approached him with speed. Tekafib's 6th dimension has been activated. Gustav's entire face suddenly turned black, looking mushy as a weird energy permeated the air. The incoming Ziaphanos, heading in Gustav's direction, suddenly turned to strands of black lines that go sucked into the blackness on Gustav's face. "This is such a convenient ability," the system voiced in Gustav's mind, as close to 30 of them got into this predicament. The other Ziaphanos in the vicinity turned to the sides upon seeing what became of their kin. "What has he done to our brothers?" One of them yelled as he turned around, and to slash Gustav from behind. Gustav turned around at this point. The Ziaphanos gazed upon the face of darkness and got transformed into a black line that got absorbed into Gustav's face as well. Some others in the vicinity happened to witness this and gazed at Gustav with fury mixed with intrigue, trying to figure out he was doing this. However, they suffered the same fate, turning into black lines and getting absorbed into Gustav's dark face. Thrir. The darkness on Gustav's face flickered a couple of times before disappearing. Tekafib's 6th dimension has been deactivated. Alpha D Alpha Theta Nu Upsilon. He reckoned that all of them would have gotten sucked in if the ability was not limited in usage. Gustav tried to activate it again, but it had apparently gone into cooldown mode. It doesn't matter. They are intelligent species. They would have figured it out sooner or later. Partially true. Taking them by surprise was the biggest step to making the ability successful. Gustav also realized that some of them flew in different directions and hid behind some floating diamond platforms in the vicinity because they didn't understand how the ability worked. This saved about 30 of them, as they were still unaware at the time that the ability works by gaze. The moment the creatures gazed upon Gustav's face while the ability was activated, their entire being would be pulled into the 6th dimension, trapped forever, never to come out again. The best way to defend against this ability was to keep one eye shut. There was no fighting against its power the moment anyone stared at it. The others seemed to have figured out by now that the ability had been deactivated and began charging at Gustav once more, while some shot out destructive dark purplish beams from their mouths. "You lots never learn," Gustav voiced. "We shall avenge our fallen kin," one of the Ziafanos yelled. "Intelligent but stupid," Gustav voiced as he charged forward as well. "Whoosh! What happened here?" Roalfa the Alpha Nu Omen overbearing-looking figure with 6 arms, 2 legs, and bluish star-shaped marks all over his body voiced out. Captain Strum, another figure looking similar but smaller, mumbled in a low tone. This figure could be seen laying in a massive ditch with weakened expression and a battered-looking body. Someone held up his head with a look of pity as other similar-looking species could be seen standing around the place. 3 others were sprawled out on the ground in different areas in this decimated-looking location. The massive craters, cracks, uprooted trees, and ditches covering a radius of thousands of feet hinted that an intense battle had occurred here. "So, it was an Earthling," Captain Strum states with an overbearing gaze. Captain, we tried, but he was too strong," the Draconet answered with a distressed tone. "You disappoint me, Shiva." Captain Strum raised one of his legs. Bang! A massive vibration rang out as he stomped on the chest of the already battered Shiva. Blairorg, Shiva puked blood as the ground quaked heavily and caved in even more. He held on to Captain Strum's leg with a pleading and suffocating expression. Captain Pill," Shiva tried begging. "Ugh, you got blood all over me." "Useless." Captain Strum kicked Shiva away before emitting a small glow that disintegrated the blood on his body. "I have seen the image in your head of the person that laid waste to all 4 of you. He is not weak, as you have stated, but your uselessness has made us look weak." Captain Strum began to levitate after saying this. "It is time to regain the 2 things you fools failed to acquire. Our pride as Draconets and the egg." His eyes squinted as he turned in a direction. Thump! His body ascended further into the air and cut across the sky with immense speed. 5 other Draconets in the vicinity ascended into the sky, following after him. "Vice Captain, are you not joining them?" one of the Draconets that stayed inquired. "The captain is more than capable of taking care of it himself. Even the others joining won't be able to do a single thing," Vice Captain Austral replied. "Truly the captain would feel it is beneath him to employ the help of anyone else," the Draconet recalled Captain Strum's intense pride. "Let's take care of the injured." The vice captain didn't seem to be as intense. She proceeded to move towards the teammate that was nearly stomped to death by Captain Strum and administered treatment. "My idiot liege, you have to accept the full power of the crown. That way these vermin would be no match for you. Shut up, Darko," Falco voiced out loud. If one could witness Falco's occasional outbursts with the way he often spoke out loud to himself, they would think he was insane. However, his friends would understand that he was most likely speaking to Dark Falco, who still existed within him. Falco was currently able to control his abilities better than in the past, so he had full dominance over Dark Falco. This was also the reason he had been engaging in most battles himself. Dark Falco could only take over if Falco fell unconscious. However, not everyone was aware that Falco had been fighting the battles himself lately. Falco's attitude was changing so much that during battle, it was difficult to tell that it wasn't Dark Falco throwing the punches. Within him, Dark Falco stood beside a dark throne where half of a floating crown could be spotted. "You already took half of it. It won't be long before you take it, all my idiot liege." "Ha ha!" Dark Falco began laughing mischievously. "I want, but even if I do, I will not become what you want," Falco stated as he arrived atop a large, icy mountain. "You are not very self-aware, my liege. You do not see what you are already becoming," Dark Falco stated. "If I ever become something else, I trust my friends to deal with me." A smile appeared on Falco's face as he stared at a massive half-spherical barrier made of icicle-like rocks up ahead. It happened to be situated between 4 mountains and despite being unable to see what was within, Falco was sure he had arrived at his destination. Your friends will be in danger if they ever try to deal with you, Dark Falco voiced internally. They're your friends too, so you better make sure nothing happens to them, Falco replied. Dark Falco, who was about to say something, initially paused. His legs buckled as he lowered himself and sat beside the throne with a speechless dark look. Humph, you just don't understand, Dark Falco muttered. SS. Chapter 1196, Please Save Me. Humph. You just don't understand, Dark Falco muttered. Falco ignored Dark Falco and leapt forward. Thum! He landed right before the massive barricade made of Iro silk that covered the entire vicinity. This is the designated point we're meant to meet Gustav in, but I can't sense anyone around, Falco voiced with a slightly confused expression. He was well aware that the barricade was Gustav's doing, since he had seen him use the Iro silk a couple of times and even covered nearly an entire city with it in the past. He just didn't understand why Gustav was not in like he was supposed to be. Maybe he's out doing something. I should just hold on in the meantime. Falco proceeded to sit in a cross-legged position. He tapped on the his storage button, which revealed holographic images of the contents within. About 25 eggs could be seen arranged within. Falco was quite satisfied with the number of eggs he had gathered himself. He was also eager for everyone to meet up, since it would make it easier for them to gather more eggs together. My liege, Dark Falco yelled internally. What is it? Don't start with your whole whining again. I am not interested in incoming hostiles. Dark Falco cut Falco off before he could finish his sentence. Incoming. Dark Falco was still speaking when a massive bluish glowing spear tore through the skies. Thrara? Falco leapt to his feet instantly, but the spear, which happened to be moving at immense speed, slammed into the icy ground at that same instant. Fwywise boom! Intense shockwaves blasted across the vicinity as Gustav's Iro silk barrier crumbled to dust along with the 4 icy mountains in the vicinity. The attack was so powerful that everything in the vicinity, except the designated machine, disintegrated. It was unknown if Falco was unscathed, but a figure with multiple limbs and a massive shadowy being towering over him could be spotted descending from the sky. Gustav held onto a Ziafano's beak, panting with his entire figure covered completely in blood. It's been a while since I battled this hard. The torn fabric on his body due to the intense battle began to join back together, just like his injuries. You just fought against beings on the level of Omegas. It is quite impressive that you managed to take care of them all, the system voiced. Gusta recalled when he struggled to cause even the slightest damage on a Omega-ranked mixed blood, and now he managed to kill over 100 of them. He had truly gotten way more powerful than he was in the past, but seeing as he still couldn't use Cohelia, he knew he still hadn't gotten to the strength level of an alpha. If this battle had occurred on Earth, it would have caused a great catastrophe, but fortunately, the 4th disk was immensely large, and whatever this dimension was, it somehow absorbed the shockwaves from their battles. His breathing soon returned to normal as his body also transformed to his usual look. Atomic disintegration has been activated. Gustav's body emitted a milky glow on the parts with blood, causing them to turn into light particles and dissipate. He currently looked like someone who didn't just finish a crazy battle. The corpse of the Ziafano in his grasp still had blood seeping out of its body from multiple areas. Might be useful later. Gustav's fingers grew longer as he stabbed his right hand into its flesh, staining his arm with blood. Once more. Begin extraction, Gustav commanded. Minutes later, Gustav could be seen flying across this unknown region once more while planning his next step. He had acquired 2 Viander eggs in this unknown place, which brought Earth up to 3 eggs in possession currently. He didn't want to spend too long here due to the others approaching the designated point, so he decided to only get 2 more and leave. He wasn't sure if bringing the others here was a good idea, since their speed was not a match for his, so He hadn't given that much though yet. Fush Gustav increased his speed after deciding which place he was going to visit next. He had practically gone round this whole place during his battle with the Ziafanos, so he knew just how large it was. There were a lot more creatures down here than he thought, and some of them had gained awareness of his presence but didn't seem to be interested in him. Gustav felt they wouldn't come after him unless he breached their territory first. About 30 minutes later, Gustav arrived above a misty surrounded structure. The structure looked like a temple of sorts, but had a torso statue of an unknown creature erected above it. The structure was multilayered, but still had only a single ground floor. The statue of the creature upper body seemed quite muscular, but its head had what looked like an upside-down horn protruding from it. Gustav's perception picked up on the 17 feet tall creatures in the vicinity that looked similar to the statue above the temple-like structure. These creatures were capable of walking on 2 feet like humans, but everything else about them looked nothing human-like. They had greenish-looking armored upper body with oddly shaped variety of weapons in their grasp as they moved about the place. Gustav was still thousands of feet above their territory, but he could see them clearly and even hear the way they communicated with one another. This was another intelligent species with strength and a special ability which Gustav wasn't aware of, but he could tell that those upside-down horns protruding from their scalp wasn't ordinary. He reckoned that there were around 20,000 of them, but they happened to be weaker than the Ziafanos. However, even with this discovery, Gustav wasn't going to underestimate them. Something happened to catch Gustav's attention upon scanning their territory with his perception, which made him activate God Eyes. God Eyes has been activated. His eyes zoomed in on the altar area of the structure, and he happened to spot an unexpected sight. "There's a participant here," Gustav muttered. "Not of her volition from the looks of things," the system voiced in response. "How do you even know it's a her?" Gustav's eyes squinted as he stared at the participant's body, which looked like an ever-outpouring source of goo. The participant body was covered in ash-gooey liquid that never stopped flowing. However, greenish glowing binds could be seen all over their body, which was in a kneeling position on the altar. "It is a female Diaperonian," the system voiced once more. "How did a participant even manage to get here?" Gustav recalled nearly getting erased from existence on his way down here. The Diaperonians are not as powerful as the planets that lead the Alliance, but they are not bad in terms of abilities. Yes, but none of their abilities should be able to help her get down here. Besides, if she is that powerful, how did she wind up in this situation? Gustav voiced. "Saying that like you were not almost unalived by the Ziafanos a while ago. TCH, I won that fight. Barely." Gustav decided to ignore the system taunts and stared at the Viander egg right in front of the participant who had become a captive. Maybe she was also trying to steal their Viander egg and got caught. Gustav felt she was also doing the same thing as he was. Anyways, it's time to get the egg. Since she's so powerful, she should be able to save herself, right? Just as Gustav was about to deactivate God Eyes, the head area of the Diaperonian turned, and 2 snake-like creatures bore out of the parts where her eyes were supposed to be located. These eyes suddenly stared directly into Gustav's, causing him to pause in place. "Please help me," a high-pitched feminine voice rang in his mind. "What the hell?" Gustav voiced. "Please save me." The voice, which was undoubted that of the Diaperonian, rang in his mind once more. "You are aware of their abilities, and you still fell into one of it. I would be shaking my head if I had won." Oh, wait. The instant the system finished speaking, it appeared before Gustav in holographic format. Her eyes held a look of ridicule as she shook her head repeatedly, like a disappointed human. "Fuck you." At this point, Gustav couldn't count the number of times the system had made him cuss. The Diaperonian had made use of an ability that trapped anything in place the moment she stared at it, making that thing or person completely unmovable. Gustav was aware of this ability since he had made his research on the aliens the Earth would be going up against during ISOP, but he didn't think the Diaperonian would be able to activate it from such distance. He wasn't even aware that she was conscious or would be able to see through the structure and discover his existence. It took him completely by surprise. 62C5B294270859 add 975E. Follow current novels on top novelful.com. Chapter 1197. He wasn't even aware that she was conscious or would be able to see through the structure and discover his existence. It took him completely by surprise. Stop whatever it is you're doing and let me go. Gustav spoke in his mind. Please save me. I'll free you if you promise to save me, the Diaperonian voiced. Let me go now while you still have the chance. You can get yourself out of whatever pickle you got yourself into. It is none of my business, Gustav replied. Please save me. They will turn me into a sacrifice. Please save me. 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 Her voice kept ringing in Gustav's head, causing him headache. His face squeezed up with annoyance. Enough! Gustav yelled as a small pink and reddish glow emitted from his being. Fisk! He was instantly freed from the hold of the Diaperonian. You just ruined your chances of getting saved. Do it yourself, Gustav stated before stamping an invisibility button on his forehead. Cognitive concealment has been activated. He tapped the button on his forehead after activating cognitive concealment, causing his entire body to disappear as he turned invisible. Are you truly not going to save her? The system inquired. TCH, why should I? Gustav said internally before swooping downwards. Don't be reckless like the last time. The system voiced. No worries, this time there isn't a crazy internal structure with unexpected gravitational laws. Gustav was relieved that it seemed easier than the last time. Upon getting close to the ground, he hovered slightly over it, flying forward into the massive temple. More statues bearing semblance to that of the one above could be seen placed in different parts of the temple interior. Although smaller in size, they seemed to be arranged in a way meant to beautify the temple. However, some of these statues were in compromising positions, some with weapons jarring through their head or chest, real internal organs planted in different corners as well. Gustav could easily tell. Weird rocks that Gustav had never seen before could also be spotted, which made him wonder how their sense of beautification worked. Any normal person that stumbled into this temple would be scared out of their wits. Instead of standing there and praising the design, Gustav immediately arrived before the altar area after avoiding the multiple creatures moving about the place. The system had once again revealed the name of the species to Gustav, but he wasn't interested in that right now. He just wanted to get the Viander egg and move out of this territory as soon as possible. I'll alert these creatures about your existence if you don't help me right now. He suddenly heard the voice of the Diaperonian. In his mind the instant, he reached out to touch the Viander egg. She looked even more slimy and gooey in closer proximity. Gustav only took a glance at her and the binds surrounding her figure. No, I'll be out of here before they can even do anything, Gustav responded while grabbing the Viander egg. Please, I'll owe you one. I'm a princess, I'll give something back in return. Anything you want, the Diaperonian participant begged. Why can't you just slither your way out of that thing? You're practically liquid, Gustav questioned. The binds stop me from dematerializing, she voiced. I promise to do anything. Please just free me, she added. Gustav paused at this point. Anything? He questioned internally. Yes, anything. You have my word, she voiced. You have limited time before they discover your presence. The system reminded. We have a deal, Gustav said internally before letting go of the Viander egg. Didn't you say you weren't going to help her? The system wanted to face-bomb at this point. Gustav ignored the system and stared at the invisible lines surrounding the Diaperonian, who was still bound. He had seen the lines around her when he activated God Eyes initially, and assumed it was some kind of trigger, but didn't understand why they didn't put it around the egg. The lines are ritualistic design, which would have sucked out her life force upon activation. The system stated, Looks like it's not a trigger like I thought. Explains why they didn't put it around the egg. Are they really that confident that no one would be able to get it? Gustav wondered internally. It would still cause a trigger if you tried to save her, though, the system voiced. Yeah, it'll just disintegrate it then, Gustav decided while activating atomic manipulation. Atomic manipulation has been activated. He tapped his right feet on the altar, and a milky glowing line spread from his feet to the lines surrounding the diaperonian. A circular decline was instantly formed on the altar. The ritualistic lines had completely disappeared. However, the creatures in the vicinity had been alerted. Gustav was super quick to have already grabbed the egg and the diaperonian before flying upwards. Bang! He broke through the roof of the temple-like platform instantly. However, fwyi! The moment he ascended about 50 feet above the ground, the diaperonian suddenly dematerialized despite the binds surrounding her body. The occurrence took Gustav by mistake, and before he knew it, she was wrapped around his right arm and extending further to the rest of his body. Thai-hi-ehan. Multiple outbursts of greenish energy surrounded the entire vicinity at once, causing Gustav to only see a world of green before he began falling to the ground. What the hell is this? Gustav voiced as a barrier suddenly appeared around him while he fell to his knees. Hi-hi-hi-hi-hi. The diaperonian began laughing hysterically in his mind while Gustav struggled to break free, but he couldn't get off his knees. Step, 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 step. Multiple of the green armored creatures with weapons stepped towards the barrier with cold looks. You fell into our trap-thieving scum, one of the Zergs stated as he arrived before the barrier. He happened to be around 20 feet tall with a massive club-like weapon in his grasp. What is this? Cosmic superiority? Not quite, it feels different. Gustav questioned internally with his forehead creasing. His body wasn't listening to his commands, and this wasn't like the hold the diaperonian had on his body earlier. That power made him unable to move, but this power was compelling him to kneel. Looking upwards, Gustav could see the upside-down horn on the scalp of the Zerg glowing a bright green light. However, it wasn't just him. Other Zergs in the vicinity had the same green glow, and it seemed to have set up the barrier surrounding Gustav. The diaperonian goo slid down from his arm and moved across the ground towards the largest Zerg. Good job, Fenna, the Zerg stated as the ashy slime arrived before him before getting sucked into the upside-down horn on his forehead. A participant working with one of the creatures down here? This didn't make any sense to Gustav. The binds which were supposed to stop her from dematerializing seemed to have been a fluke, and she could have dematerialized any time she wanted. Gustav had been successfully fooled. These creatures were truly intelligent, but a lot still wasn't adding up. I found Fenna and made her my slave, the 20 feet tall Zerg began stating upon seeing the look of confusion on Gustav's face. After saying a couple of things, Gustav now understood everything. The Zergs were aware that someone was going to try and steal their Viander egg, and from the looks of things, he wasn't the first. The power of the chief of the Zerg's upside-down horn lets him bring back to life someone and make them his slave. He apparently found the corpse of Fenna, a diaperonian participant somewhere unknown, and brought her back to life as a slave, being her master. HUNDSS, 2 reasons bad matchup, and that's their captain, Gustav replied. Oh, Teamy voiced, will you be going then? Nah, I have a better matchup. Elevra, you're up, Gustav announced. Elevra's face turned focused as she heard this. How far do I have to go? She wanted to know if it was necessary to go all out. Gustav had told everyone initially that they wouldn't be displaying all of their strength from the start, but eventually they would go all out. Just make sure you get to the 9th river, Gustav instructed. Elevra nodded and began heading forward. The grounds EE destroyed initially had been fixed, and new rivers were now positioned there. As Elevra arrived before the first river, the Anusa relic appeared before her, and she reached out to grab it. Roalfa Dialpha and knew a few moments later. She was holding onto a massive spear with a fiery purplish flame at its tip. Elevra stared at her weapon with a look of satisfaction before pointing it at the river before her. Her entire figure was soon emitting a bright, purplish glow as the ground began to quake. On the other side, Captain Shumi held onto what looked like a massive cannon. It was 4 times her size, yet she held it above her like it was nothing while pouring energy into it. A couple of moments later, they both took action. Boom. A shot was released from the cannon, which flew into the river ahead and exploded with intensity. Meanwhile, Elevra, who had levitated to almost 100 feet height, flung the spear in her grasp downwards. Fwai, a purplish streak cut through the air as it bore through the river instantly, emitting a shockwave that caused the entire river to be emptied. Both opponents went through the 1st to 6th river, performing the same actions and clearing it out. Her strength should be reaching its limits after this river, Captain Shumi thought, as she gave it her all and cleared the 7th river as well. The purplish aura surrounding Elevra climbed as she flung down her spear from the air once more. Bang! The entire river was emptied once again, effortlessly, as cracks spread across the floor of the river. Tisich, there is no way she's as calm as she looks. Captain Shumi peeked at Elevra from her end below. They were currently at the 8th river now, which was the limit for a lot of participants. If I manage to clear this, it should be the end for her, she whispered while pouring energy into her cannon. Weird, popping sounds rang out as the projectile within the cannon kept growing in energy until she finally fired it. Thush! It cut through the surface of the gigantic river, which was well over 1,000,000 feet in length, before falling into it. Boom! A loud explosion rang out as huge amount of waves rose into the air, displaying the bottom of the river as the blast kept spreading. Unfortunately, it wasn't powerful enough to split more than 1/4 of the river before dying out. The gravitational force is so strong that it causing the power of any blast to be reduced to 1/3 of its output. She had a grudging look as she came to this realization. I just need to amp it up then, she said with determination while infusing a large amount of energy into her cannon once more. Up above, Elevra was also gathering energy as the purplish aura surrounding her continued to climb. Her head tie was still wrapped around her forehead, and there didn't seem to be a need for her to reveal it. The sky had begun to change color in her position due to the purplish aura she emitted, but she knew it still wasn't enough. On the ground, Captain Shumi finally fired her cannon once more. A rocking explosion rang out, clearing 3/4 of the river in front of her, but it still wasn't enough to clear all. At this point, she stared at the river before her with a look of disbelief, since she was aware of how much power she had just used. That other earthling must be immensely powerful, she recalled EB. However, she wasn't ready to give up as she began charging her cannon again for the 3rd and final try. At this same instant, Elevra held up her spear and arched her arm back to the limit with a serious expression. Fwaiwiayi, she flung her spear downwards with intensity, causing shock waves to spread from her location even before the spear hit the water. The sky cleared out, and the river surface blasted open while the spear was still 100 feet away from making contact with its surface. Boom! In a split second the spear had made contact with the bottom of the river, and a powerful force spread forth from it, pushing the water body out of its 1,000,000 feet whole radius. Cheers, 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 cheers were heard from the spectators' area as she cleared it in one attack once more. Captain Shumi instantly lost morale as she witnessed this, and released her shot impromptu. As expected, it didn't manage to clear the 8th river, leaving Elevra the winner. Planet Earth 2-0 Planet Gundabald. The spectators' areas focusing on Earth and Gundabald's face-off erupted in cheers and groans of satisfaction, as well as disappointment. They both headed back to their respective groups. Elevra and the Oths jubilated after their second, when while a cloud of gloom was casted on the Gundabald's area. We can still win this. They are using all their powerful representatives from the start. Meanwhile, we still have Tyven, Shui, and the others. Captain Shumi voiced. Captain Shumi is right. WS can still win, some of them agreed as they tried not to lose hope. Gustav proceeded to send Timi next, as he wanted, and there was no disappointment. Timi cleared 7 rivers, while his opponent did not manage to successfully clear the 7th. The Earth had been hailed to have one of the most powerful species in the universe, but they hadn't expected to lose 3 bouts in a row without winning a single one. It was humiliating. Captain Shumi wasn't happy with the current turn of events, but she made sure to keep to her strategy and kept sending out the weaker teammates from her side first. Time went by very quickly, and before Avewan knew it, both planets had completed 7 bouts. So far, Aeldris, Glade, Vin, and Yonda had participated, and none of them lost. Planet Earth 7 to 0 Planet Gundabald at Planet Gundabald's side. Captain Shumi turned to one of her teammates who happened to be the smallest in their midst. He was about 2 feet tall with a glowing green root like hair that floated up. Tyven, it's time for us to make a comeback. Head out there and do the needful, she said to him. He didn't say a single word in response and just began to head forward. This will be a tough one. Endrick, you're up, Gustav voiced. Endrick, who had been silent all this time behind, finally walked forward. I see what you're talking about. He's strong, Endrick stated as he arrived before Gustav. Yes, the type of weapon you two get actually matters, Gustav voiced. Have faith in me, big brother. I will take care of this, Endrick reassured before he began stepping forward with a solemn expression. He has become quite reliable, Aeldris voiced from the side. Gustav remained silent, but deep down he admitted to what Aeldris had just said. Endrick soon arrived before the river, and the Anusa relic appeared before him. What type of weapon do you want? His forehead beeped with a greenish glow as Husarius' voice rang in his mind. You can manipulate that? Endrick questioned internally. Yes, just tell me the weapon you are interested in, Husarius inquired once more. I just want something that doesn't hinder my telekinetic abilities, Endrick replied while reaching out to grab the relic. Ironing in the next few moments, a 4-feet-long katana with bluish glowing blade appeared in his grasp. This is good. Now I have no worries, Endrick voiced as he raised the katana. Zien. His irises turned sky blue as he gathered telekinetic energy. On the other side, Tyven held onto what looked like a metallic club. The club began to extend in length as he floated into the air. It became so long, it extended beyond the first river. Dashwo, is that even allowed? Alpha Dialpha Theta Nu Epsilon Bang, swinging the massive metallic club downwards. It instantly split a couple of rivers as it dropped onto them. Meanwhile, Endrick also swung his katana forward at the same instant. Telekinetic split. Universal separation, he muttered as a wave of energy was released from the blade of the katana. Chapter 1198, right before their very eyes, which was filled with uttermost bewilderment. Gustav stood to his feet, no longer hindered by their abilities. What? How are you doing this, thieving scum? The chief of the Zergs voiced. It's just a Yarky dupe, Gustav muttered as he stepped forward and grabbed the Viander egg. Gustav barely activated cosmic superiority since he didn't want to bring any attention to himself. Exuding a little bit of its energy was enough to break out of the hold of the Zerg's power. Dash, Yarky. Dash, that creature is dangerous, chief. Dash, what is this? The Zergs were already astonished and wary upon witnessing Gustav's feat, but in the next instant, he suddenly disappeared from sight. Bang! A loud crash assaulted their ears as the barrier blasted to smithereens. The Zergs were unable to process things very quickly despite their powerful ability. Their eyes widened when they spotted Gustav in the sky with their chief in his grasp, powerless. The club-like weapon in his grasp had fallen to the ground as well. Chief, they yelled with looks of horror as they began throwing weapons upwards. LTS, time to send you to the afterlife. A smirk appeared on Gustav's face as his frame cut across the air with intense speed. Despite his size, the chief of the Zergs struggled powerlessly with Gustav's right hand, holding tightly onto his throat. Please spare me. You can have the egg, the chief pleaded after seeing their immense difference in strength. I already have the egg. You don't strike a good bargain, Gustav stated as his fingers tightened around the neck of the chief, which was very small in comparison to his size. Erferg, I have a better bargain ple spree me, the chief of the Zergs pleaded. I don't want to hear it. Greed got me into this situation. Your power will be enough compensation, Gustav replied as he prepared to extract the chief's ability. MP, I have a MAP, I see and HLPY, OUGT, EGS. The chief kept struggling to speak. He says he has a map, the system voiced. I already know my way around, Gustav replied. You do, but you keep getting into these situations that delay you. Didn't you say you wanted to get out of here as soon as possible? The system inquired. Gustav thought about it for a second. He was unaware of the abilities of the creatures here, so he kept getting into unfavorable situations. However, if a native of this part of the fourth disc helped him, things would become easier, and he wouldn't get delayed by falling into unexpected situations again. I guess you're right, but I really like their abilities, though. Gustav reluctantly released his tight grip on the chief's throat. You're not just going to give me a map. You will also stake the eggs for me, Gustav stated while still holding the chief up. I agree, but can my savior release our egg, since we will be helping you steal more? The chief inquired. You don't get to make demands besides. What do you guys even need them for? Gustav questioned. Please, savior. You might as well just slaughter us now if you still wish to take our egg, the chief pleaded. Why is the Viander egg so important to the creatures down here? Gustav wondered internally with a slightly raised left brow. Who knows? The system answered like it was unaware too. Very well then, Gustav voiced while turning around. FYI, he sped across the air once more and arrived above the territory of the Zergs, who were still prancing around in despair. Gustav let go of the chief, who fell from the aid and landed before his kin. Chief, the Zergs yelled in joy. Now listen up. Gustav floated a few feet above the ground with a menacing gaze, causing the Zergs to shudder. They meekly fell to their knees and listened as Gustav made demands on what he wanted. The creatures would do anything to make sure their eggs were not taken from them, so they accepted Gustav's demand. They couldn't even disobey, even if they wanted to, since their chief already agreed. With the partnership, the Zergs informed Gustav of this part of the fourth disc properly. Apparently, it was a kind of dimension between the fourth and fifth disc, but they were still a part of planet Ozius. However, they weren't completely recognized by the major species existing on the surface of the discs, the Ozus. They were seen as less important and inferior, and the eggs happened to be what helped them evolve and grow as a species. Roalpha Dialpha Nu Omd, it was normal for a planet to have multiple species, especially one as massive as this. However, he didn't understand why the Ozus choose not to acknowledge the existences of the ones here. As he stayed longer, he realized the Zergs were more peaceful than they looked on the surface. Despite the chief's special ability to revive the dead with that upside-down horn of his and turn them to his slave, he didn't think of conquering more territories. This ability could change the tide of battles if he wanted to conquer even the surface, but the chief only wanted to protect his people. This is the one we will be infiltrating second, the Bootfa territory. They have warping abilities and tend to set a lot of traps, but I can get you the egg without them ever knowing it. The chief spoke to Gustav after their first haul. They had already managed to get one Viander egg in the last hour. It was so easy to get into the territory due to the help of the chief and get the egg out after replacing it with a dummy. This time Gustav didn't get into any scuffle. It was almost too easy that he thought something was wrong. So, you know their leader? Gustav questioned. We have been acquainted in the past, yes, the the chief answered. So you're willing to double-cross this acquaintance of yours? Gustav inquired once more. To save my people, with no question, I would, the chief answered unhesitatingly. All right then, let's go, Gustav voiced before getting off the altar within the temple. Thinking, Gustav held his right eye as he felt a small thump. Savior, is anything the matter? The chief questioned with concern while staring down on Gustav due to his large size. Nothing, let's move. Gustav lowered his arm before stepping forward. Core. Falco coughed out spurts of blood as he knelt in the middle of a massive crater. The frost in the surrounding had completely vaporized, leaving a completely decimated environment. Falco looked up with an unyielding expression as a figure descended from above. Bang! He landed directly on Falco, who was struggling to get up. The entire vicinity quaked intensely as the figure with 6 arms and blue starred patterns got off Falco back, which had made a loud crack upon collision. Oops, I didn't mean to, Earthling. Captain Strum squatted before Falco and grabbed his hair with one of his left hands. He slowly pulled his head up a little, which had blood smeared across. I applaud you for surviving my first attack. You are indeed strong, but it's only right for me to treat you the same way you did my subordinates. I'll get the egg back after having a little fun with you. A confident and prideful grin appeared on his face. Don't die just yet, Captain Strum voiced before pulling Falco completely off the ground and smashing his face into the wall of the crater. Bang, 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 bang. Captain Strum blurred across the vicinity in a zigzag format as he repeatedly smashed Falco's face into the walls and ground, causing a quakes. Come on, don't make this boring for me. He raised Falco's entire body with 2 of his arms and began punching his gut with the rest of his 4 arms. Dash, should we stop him? Dash, do you want to die? Captain Strum would rip you to pieces. Dash, wouldn't the Earthling die if this continues, though? Dash, I think there's a penalty for that, but we can't do anything but watch right now above THS crater. 5 figures who also had multiple limbs watched with worried expressions and discussed their concerns amongst one another. Bang, 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 bang. Hundreds of punches slammed into Falco's gut at very fast pace, causing him to spit out more blood, which touched Captain Strum's face. That's gross. You got blood all over me. Captain Strum let go of Falco at this point, who fell to his face with a battered body. Disgusting, Captain Strum stated before swinging his left foot forward. Bang. His foot collided with Falco's face, sending him flying out of the crater. Bang, bang, bang. Falco slammed into the ground and repeatedly ricocheted off it, sweeping across the ground for hundreds of feet. My liege, wake up, or I'm taking over. Wake up. Chapter 11, 99, Disappear. Falco slammed into the ground and repeatedly ricocheted off it, sweeping across the ground for hundreds of feet. My liege, wake up, or I'm taking over. Wake up. Dark Falco kept yelling internally as Falco's body swept across the ground, creating long ridges. Ugh, hi. Falco groaned as his body came to a stop after a while. He felt extremely sore, all over, and lightheaded. Blerg. He vomited out another mouthful of blood as his visibility slowly returned to normal. My liege, you are not a match for him, as you are now. Accept the full power of the crow. Not a MTCH, huh? We shall see about that. Falco interrupted with a stubborn look while trying to pick himself up. Once more. Thwoosh. Captain Strum's figure flew out of the crater, which happened to be hundreds of feet ahead, with intense speed in Falco's direction. His arms were arched back as he prepared to launch another flurry of fists on Falco's body. Immense dark energy suddenly radiated from Falco's being before Captain Strum could get to him. Thrara! Falco's left arm, which was twisted 180 degrees right due to the damage he took from the beating earlier, spun back to its usual angle as he leapt into the air to receive Captain Strum. A large fist conjured from dark energy formed as Falco swung his initially broken arm forward to meet, with the multiple fist headed in his direction. Boom! Shock waves blasted in every direction as the massive dark fist collided with Captain Strum's multiple fists, causing both figures to instantly separate in mid-air. Falco landed on his feet and slid tens of feet backwards, just like Captain Strum, who has a little expression of excitement on his face. "Now, that's more like it, Earthling," he stated while two of his arms rested on his hips while another one smoothed his hair backwards, and one pointed at Falco. "Don't make this boring for me," he added. "You only held the upper hand for a little because your attack took me by surprise. Don't get too full of yourself." Falco wiped the blood off his mouth with his sleeves. "Big talk for a person that I don't need my encore to defeat," Captain Strum stated with a confident grin planted on his face. Falco recalled that what the Draconites called encores was that shadowy figure that would be projected behind them, which was usually very powerful. However, he felt things might have been easier if Captain Strum made use of it, considering that he was aware that the encores was also their weakness, as well as it was their strength. The aura of darkness covering Falco's entire being grew in size as the mark on his forehead enlarged as well. Tawash! They both charged forward without saying any more words at this point, as Captain Strum didn't seem to have gotten enough out of the beating he gave Falco earlier. Multiple dark arms phased out of the dark aura covering Falco's being as he clashed repeatedly with Captain Strum. Bang, 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 bang. They both threw out thousands of punches in seconds, making it look like a flurry of blurry arms swinging forward repeatedly. Shockwaves wrecked the entire vicinity even more as these two continued to exchange fists in mid-air, unyielding to the other. Dash, he managed to hold his own against the captain. Dash, that Earthling is truly impressive. Dash, we can't even interfere or the captain would face us and beat us to a pulp. Dash, this won't last for long though. Dash, the Earthling might be able to hold his own now, but the moment the captain stops holding back, that would be the end. The 5 Draconites in the sky watched the battle unfold with interested expressions and speculations. It looked like the battle was still in stalemate even after a few minutes had gone by, but Falco was not interested in letting things stay this way. He had conjured more than 17 dark arms to combat Captain Strum's 6 arms, yet the captain was able to fend off the attacks from every single one of them by swinging faster each time. There was a new dark arm. "I need to incapacitate him," Falco thought, as dark energy spread further from his being, encapsulating Captain Strum's figure within. Sitsian. In the next instant, a radius of more than 1,000 feet had been covered in darkness. All Captain Strum could see was darkness as every ounce of light completely got snuffed out. Thrara, Thrara! Captain Strum suddenly found his entire figure wrapped by massive dark arms shooting from the ground behind him. Fwywai! Falco dashed forward at this point with the other dark arms extending from his being, suddenly grabbing Captain Strum's 6 arms to trap him in place. Falco, who had arched his right arm back to the limit, hurled a punch forward at Captain Strum's gut the instant he arrived before him. Bang! Captain Strum's figure catapulted across the air with intensity, spiraling for several hundred feet before slamming into the ground far ahead. Fwash! Falco charged forward once more, as multiple arms shot out of the ground in this vicinity of darkness, trying to trap Captain Strum in place once more. Bang! 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 Captain Strum swiftly threw fists across the place, hitting the dark arms away, but the instant he fended them off, Falco arrived before him. Bam! Fists were exchanged once more, and before Captain Strum could fend them off completely, hundreds of dark arms had held onto his 6 arms, once more trapping him in place. Bang! 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 This time, Falco didn't let him off with a single punch. Bang! 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 Falco's face squeezed up in anger as he repeatedly punched Captain Strum across the air leaving him no chance to counter or land before driving fists into his gut. TCH, such humiliation. I need to find a way out of this dark domain, Captain Strum thought as he received a flurry of fists. Bang, bang, bang. Conjuring another massive dark fist, Falco threw an uppercut at Strum, sending him hurling upwards. As his figure ascended for hundreds of feet, his figure escaped the dark area Falco had set up. For an instant, Falco charged upwards instantly, but Captain Strum was quick enough to further fly upwards, escaping the dark domain. I need to get him back in, Falco thought as he flew after Captain Strum. Such nuisance. Captain Strum voiced with a frustrated tone as a massive shadowy figure appeared behind him. Disappear, he voiced as the shadowy figure raised his arm with a massive glowing bluish spear appeared in his grasp. Falco's eyes slightly widened as he recognized the massive spear, but it was too late. Fwaiwai! The spear was flung down, instantly cutting through the air with intensity and bearing a tremendous pressure as a massive line could be spotted in the sky. Boom! Falco's entire being shot downwards as the spear crashed him into the ground beneath, sending bluish, destructive waves across the vicinity. The darkness in the vicinity instantly disintegrated into light particles as the bluish blast leveled the surroundings. Looks like that was all the captain needed to do. There's no way that Earthlings survived now since it was a direct hit. Now the captain will get a strike. Sigh. The Draconites shook their heads with looks of pity as it seemed like any attack from Captain Strum's Corps was absolute. Are you guys going to need any help protecting yourselves, though? Within the temple-like structure, Gustav held on to another viander egg with a look of satisfaction on his face. We will be fine, savior, the chief of the Zerg stated. You know, it wouldn't take a rocket scientist for the boot fogs to figure out that you're responsible if they ever find out that the egg with them right now is a fake, Gustav voiced out. What is a rocket scientist? The chief of the Zergs questioned with a look of confoundment. Never mind, it's an Earth term, Gustav replied. The chief still had a look of intrigue, but Gustav wasn't going to explain it no matter how much he asked. Say, chief, are you the only one that can use that revival power? Gustav inquired. Indeed, I am the only Zerg on that level of power, but another could achieve it maybe in the next 50 to 200 years, the chief of the Zergs responded. Gustav figured it was a thing of cultivation and stared at the other Zergs in the vicinity. So it's not entirely impossible then, Gustav thought. Also, I cannot revive a person that has been a corpse for longer than 5 minutes, the chief added. Then the Diaperonian girl was only a fresh corpse when you found her, Gustav voiced. Yes, I don't know where she came from. I just found her corpse nearby and used my power to turn her into my slave. I didn't even know that it would work, the captain of the Zergs answered. 62C5B2942709 add 975E. Follow current novels on Top Novelful.com. Chapter 1200. Enough said. By any chance do you have convict Zergs that are no longer trusted by you and your fellow Zergs? Gustav wasn't really interested in how the Diaperonian candidate got here anymore. Yes, we have those who stole, the chief responded. Anyone with more grave offenses besides stealing? Like killing or something? Gustav inquired. The chief of the Zergs had a slightly downcast look as he replied. There is one. The chief of the Zergs had a slightly downcast look as he replied. There is one. Good, take me to them. Gustav got to his feet after saying. Minutes later, Gustav stared at the system notification before him. Zerg ability extraction complete. The massive Zerg bound with glowing tiles before him fell to his back powerless after Gustav let go of his neck. This concludes our partnership, Gustav said to the chief before leaping into the air. Fuhush, his figure disappeared into the distance while the Zerg, whose powers had just been stolen, remained in place with a look of despair. There is trouble. I'm sure you already sensed it, the system said to Gustav as he began ascending at very quick speed. I did, Gustav replied as he touched his right eye, which thumped rhythmically. Alpha the Alpha Theta Nu Epsilon Gustav immediately activated God Eyes and went on to connect to life signs. Captain Strum gazed downwards with a condescending expression as he spotted a human figure twitching repeatedly on the decimated ground that had leveled by hundreds of feet. The Earthling survived the Captain Time Spear. Few lucky, but he is in no state to battle. I didn't expect him to last this long. The Draconites watched from afar as Captain Strum descended while Falco's body twitched repeatedly below as he was in an unconscious state. Falco had lost his arms along with his entire left shoulder, leaving only a small part of his chest intact. His eyelids fluttered from time to time, as it seemed like he struggling to regain consciousness. My liege, my idiot liege, wake up. Dark Falco kept yelling within, but to no avail. This is what happens when you try to be difficult. Captain Strum landed before Falco's battered body. A mere earthling subordinate, like you managed to make me use my encore twice. Captain Strum had a look of anguish as he grabbed Falco's head and lifted him off the ground with a single hand. Such humiliation. Bang. He threw a fist at Falco's gut. You cannot shame me without consequences. Bang. I shall not tolerate humiliation to my great planet. Bang. How do you like that now, Earthling? Bang. Did you think you were strong? Bang. Did you think you would win? Bang. That you would even harbor such thoughts? Bang. Makes. Bang. You. Bang. Worthy. Bang. Of. Bang. Great. Bang. Punishment. Bang. 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 Blood flowed down Falco's body as he soon got drenched due to the intense beatings. From the Earth spectators' area, they watched the happenings with looks of anguish as a lot of them voiced their dissatisfaction. Isn't that supposed to be illegal? Why does he keep hitting him? Does he intend to kill an Earth representative? Where are the others? Where is Officer Crimson? Miss Amy sat in place with keen eyes focused on the multiple screens above the arena area. Gustav isn't on any of them. Is he? Grand Commander Cheyenne questioned. Roalpha the Alpha Enuam. No, he is not, Miss Amy replied. Wherever he is must be distant from there. It looks like the Falco kid is on his own, she added. This is not good. We can't lose a mixed blood with such potential. Grand Commander Cheyenne had a disturbed expression as he spoke. As much as they would have loved to intervene, it would cause Earth to get disqualified if they did so. The only thing Earth spectators could do right now was watch, and it was getting even more disturbing by the second. We should really stop the captain before he kills him. It will be a problem if the Earthling dies because this will not be tagged as accidental. Yes, we will be penalized. Which one of us is going down there? There was a bit of silence after the last Draconet raised the question. They stared at each other for a bit and began pointing at one another. Bang, bang, bang. At this point, Falco's body had stopped twitching as he turned completely unconscious. His ribs had been smashed in, and his body was in an unrecognizable state. You will... Captain Strum stretched back four of his arms as he prepared to drive fists into Falco's body again. Regret ever, a loud rocket-blazing sound suddenly reverberated across the air as a golden and metallic humanoid-looking figure swooped in. From the right, the figure snatched Falco's battered body out of Captain Strum's arms before he could deliver the fists. Captain Strum's face showed confusion and annoyance as he turned to stare in the direction the figure disappeared into. Thousands of feet towards the east, the humanoid golden figure with a circular-shaped, translucent stone for a head stood atop a slightly exalted but flattened ice surface. This was actually a frost mountain that had gotten flattened due to the battle in the vicinity. The figure with the translucent head had a bright, glowing fluorescent light the size of 2 fists within it. It slowly let Falco's body down and materialized a glowing pill, which it proceeded to put into his mouth. Tuish, hey, who the hell do you think you are to take my prey away? Captain Strum suddenly appeared behind the golden metallic-looking figure effortlessly with his arms throwing punches forward. The fluorescent glow within the circular-shaped, translucent head brightened intensely at this moment. The entire terrain suddenly expanded, causing the golden figure and Falco to get separated from Captain Strum. They didn't even need to move, as all his punches missed their target upon the expansion of the terrain. They were suddenly thousands of feet apart again. Captain Strum had a conflicted expression as he stared forward. What sort of power is this? It isn't teleportation. He charged forward to attack the figure once more, and the same situation occurred. He was unable to touch the golden figure, no matter how much he tried to. The environment wasn't the only thing shifting and changing. His attacks were transforming as well, and he couldn't understand how this golden figure was doing this. Captain Strum couldn't recognize the species and knew it wasn't an earthling. You are not a participant, are you? He soon realized that this might be why this golden figure hadn't even tried countering his attack and only evaded. However, if this golden figure wasn't an ISOP participant, then what was it? Minutes ago, Gustav slightly opened his mouth, but could only hiss in rage as he witnessed what was happening on the surface through God eyes. Welp, you would have prevented this if you had gotten back up there earlier. The system stated, SJ, take care of Falco till I get back. Gustav could see the sacred jewel floating in place beside the designated machine without any sight of the Iro silk he built around. Don't touch that guy. He's mine. Gustav stared directly at Strum, who was still beating Falco up. The sacred jewel communicated to Gustav through a telepathic link, so it already replied Gustav and began transforming. It took the form of a golden but humanoid-looking being about 12 feet tall, with its glowing translucent body taking the form of a head. Gustav deactivated God Eyes at this point and stared up. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Threra Ahas, Gustav's being ascended with immense speed as he transformed into a lightning streak that disappeared from this dimension. Fight back, you low-life thing. Captain Strum was getting even more frustrated as time passed. He even found himself throwing fists at a hill at one point and couldn't understand just what sort of ability SJ was making use of. My master said he wants to have the pleasure of dealing with you himself. A projection of light appeared above SJ, displaying words that only the Draconites would understand. Your master? Who is that? Internally, Captain Strum was a little disturbed that such a creature had a master. Behind you, huh? Captain Strum turned around with a look of surprise, and what he witnessed stunned him. A brewing ice storm had covered the entire vicinity behind. It looked like the ground and sky had ripped open and blasted into little pieces that caused the ice storm. This was due to something that was traveling at incredible speed and causing destruction to the environment due to ripples spreading from it. On closer look, it was a silhouette. What is? Before Captain Strum could even dissect the situation. The silhouette had arrived before him with glowing crimson eyes, bearing down a punch that parted the sky. Boom! A fist-packing, intensive destructive force on a subatomic level slammed into Captain Strum's chest, triggering a shockwave. Thunk! It seemed like gravitational force had come to a reversal as every solid particle within a 10-mile radius got crushed into little pieces that acidinated into the sky. Chapter 12. O1 Film. It seemed like gravitational force had come to a reversal as every solid particle within a 10-mile radius got crushed into little pieces that acidinated into the sky. The Draconites watching from above also got blasted backwards by the immense energy from the attack despite being high up. They only managed to stabilize themselves after the turmoil calmed a bit. Dash, who in the name of the gods is that? Dash, the captain. Their faces were still filled with astonishment as they stared downwards. The destruction wasn't a simple crater this time. This entire part of the fourth disk had completely leveled and crumbled to dust that drifted off into space. Dash, what in the world? The skies and space was usually unclear from the fourth disk, so They hadn't seen a single piece of outer space since they arrived here. However, at this moment space was more than visible. They could also see the large silver star that acted as a sun to planet Osius from this point. Fortunately, or unfortunately, this didn't last long as the breach in the fourth disk began repairing itself, building new frosty ground to cover up the hole. Far ahead of where the destruction had occurred, a two-limbed, slightly charred body that looked like it had been reduced to less than half of its original state, laid in a ditch. Gustav floated above the destruction he had created with his fist emitting smoke, and his expression displaying silent rage. He turned slightly to stare upwards. It is the captain of the Earthlings. He can see us? That look is threatening us not to interfere. He is more powerful than we thought. We should inform Vice Captain. The captain can handle himself, but just in case more Earthlings arrive, we have to let the Vice Captain know of the current situation. The Draconids didn't doubt that Gustav had just glared at them with a warning look despite their distance. This was Gustav trying to say he wouldn't engage unless they tried to mess around like their captain, and if so, they would end up in the same state. Gustav turned to the east and flew forward. Whoosh! The sacred jewel was quick enough to act in accordance with Gustav by moving Falco out of the area of concentration of his attack. Gustav arrived before SJ and squatted in front of Falco's body. He had began to slowly heal, but his face was still pale, as well as the rest of what was left of his body. SJ's surface made a little blinking glow, communicating with Gustav that Falco would be fine. Don't use too much of that power. Remember what happened the last time. Gustav warned SJ, who lowered his head in response. The power Gustav was referring to happened to be reality warping. The sacred jewel had made use of this initially when saving Falco from Captain Strum. Apparently an accident had happened in the past when SJ continuously used reality warping, so Gustav cautioned it against continuous use. Why are they still there? Gustav could still sense the presence of the Draconids above. Knowing how prideful the Draconid species are, I doubt they'll take this lying down, the system voiced. Then it won't end well for them either, Gustav stated. SJ, watch FA. Gustav was about to give an instruction when they sensed an immense energy far behind. And in core, Gustav recognized the massive shadowy figure towering into the sky as it stood above, where Captain Strum had winded up. He's conscious, Gustav voiced in realization. He knew Captain Strum didn't die from that attack, but he was very sure he incapacitated him, so Gustav was expecting the Draconids watching to swoop down and take Sir Captain away. However, Gustav was just realizing that the Draconids watching didn't do that because they were somehow confident that their captain would be okay. Full whoosh, Gustav turned around completely at this point and sped forward. Far ahead within a massive ditch, Captain Strum's body, which was missing 6 of his limbs as well as his lower half, suddenly opened his eyes. Erfas, he roared, but it was unknown whether it was in pain or rage. Roalfa di Alpha and knew Omi's shadowy and core, which towered above him, brought down its palms on Captain Strum's body. A blue glow like that of the spear he used against Falco suddenly encapsulated the entire vicinity. Gustav paused in midair and shielded his eyes as this glow was so intensity that it caused even his skin to emit mist. The glow dimmed in the next moment before disappearing, and what appeared in Gustav's line of sight next was an incoming figure. Whoosh! Bang! 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 Multiple powerful fists slammed repeatedly into Gustav, sending him flying backwards, as he only managed to counter 4 of them. As Gustav's body flipped backwards in midair repeatedly, Captain Strum raised 3 of his right hands while flying after Gustav. The Encore towering above him put a massive 100 feet long glowing spear in his hands. He arched his arms backwards with intensity before throwing the glowing blue spear forward with incredible strength. Alpha di Alpha Theta Nu Epsilon Mowever. At the last moment, Gustav suddenly stabilized himself with the tip, which was larger than his entire body, only inches away from making contact. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Thradas! His entire figure turned into a lightning bolt that streaked upwards with speed, instantly disappearing from everyone's line of sight. Boom! Another area ahead was instantly disintegrated as the spear slammed into a frosted mountain. Everything turned into light particles, causing destruction on the same level of Gustav's attack earlier. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Captain Strum, who was still flying forward searching for Gustav, suddenly spotted a lightning bolt appear in front of him and transform into the very person he was searching for. Bang! Gustav's fist slammed into Captain Strum's face after taking him by surprise, causing his figure get catapulted into the distance. Gustav had activated Lightning Blitz for the second time after escaping Captain Strum's initial spear attack. What was that? The power of his encore. Gustav stared downwards from his position above at the destruction with God eyes. Its ability is time-related. He reversed time for himself, going back to his initial state before my attack hit. Gustav instantly figured it out as he realized that the damaged area from the spear attack had very subtle details that depicted formations that could only be found when matter is newly created. Looks like he wanted to erase you from existence. The system voiced. More like he wanted to rewind my existence to a point where I never existed. As Gustav thought of this, he came to a realization that Falco must have tanked such an attack. It was mind-boggling that Falco survived. It hadn't even been more than a few moments since Gustav escaped the attack, but he had already figured out all of this. Did you really think you could take me out with one attack? Captain Strum had stabilized himself in mid-air very quickly. Did you really think I'd let you off with what you did to my friend? Gustav voiced in response as wings sprouted out of his back. He is fortunate to have survived for the shame he caused my great planet. Just as you did, Captain Strum and Kor stood right behind him at this point. Shame? Your great planet feels no shame for trying to steal an egg, but feels shame after getting their ass kicked. Typical, Gustav replied. I shall no longer tolerate any more humiliation from you Earthlings, even though you are a captain just like me. After saying this, Captain Strum's encore began glowing. For a powerful being such as yourself, it will not be below me to reveal the true form of my encore, he stated as the shadowy color turned to a bright teal, shining a blinding glow across the vicinity. A thorny-looking glowing halo could be spotted floating above, its head which had over 12 eyeballs arranged in a circular format. It looked like the encore was clad in a robe like an human figure without a face. A powerful pressure descended upon the environment as the encore stood before them like a deity descended from the high heavens. Oh, that is a level 6 encore, the system voiced in Gustav's mind. A level 6? That isn't something a 20-year-old should have, Gustav thought with a straight face. Yeah, just like how you also shouldn't be this powerful, but here we are, the system added. Fair point. Gustav's face remained straight like he was unfazed, but internally he was quite surprised. Captain Strum was the first participant he was meeting that was practically on his level of strength. If you kneel before me and apologize while handing the egg over to my subordinates, I shall spear you, Captain Strum stated with a prideful tone. Chapter 12. O2, the group arrives. If you kneel before me and apologize while handing the egg over to my subordinates, I shall spare you, Captain Strum stated with a prideful tone. Is that so? I haven't dealt with you enough for hurting my friend. Prepare to be in a world of pain, Gustav replied, as his eyes glowed menacingly. The entire vicinity trembled intensely due to the clash of energies emitting from their beings. Just as the spectators were about to witness what might be a proper first battle between captains, a massive wall suddenly descended and landed right in between them. The massive wall had brick-like lines, but looked too smooth to be made of bricks. It was so wide and massive that it covered a very long distance. The wind that spread forth from it upon its landing caused Gustav's hair to flutter as he floated in midair. Gustav and Captain Strom were aware that this wall that had arrived in their midst couldn't stop them from engaging each other, but they paused briefly. 14 Draconids could be seen approaching from the western sky with speed. Austral, I do not need your assistance to take care of this, Captain Strom voiced with a slightly irritated expression as he glared in their direction. The vice-captain of the Draconids flew towards Captain Strom, while the other Draconids landed on the wall and turned to face Gustav. Facing all of them together will be a near impossible task unless you go for slaughter, the system voiced in Gustav's mind. He was well aware of this, as he could sense the strength level of the new arrivals. He couldn't even gauge Captain Strom's strength properly due to the reveal of his Encore true form, so this would be an uncertain battle even for him. I haven't come to offer assistance, Captain. Vice-Captain Austral stated the moment she arrived before Captain Strom. What? Then why are you here? Get out of my sight, Captain Strom yelled. Gustav energy began to build up intensely at this point, causing the Draconids on the wall to show expressions of wariness. Maybe he'll just use it, Gustav muttered. All of a sudden, everyone felt the approach of multiple people heading in this direction. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Some flew, some leapt across the air, while others sped across the ground. They're here. A smile appeared on Gustav's face. A violet-colored vortexes appeared on the wall before him, and 2 people walked out of it. Yo, Gus, are these people bothering you? A familiar voice called out to him. How did you guys get here so fast? Gustav asked. You underestimate us, Captain. We move as fast as required when it is necessary. So, who are we beating up this time? Voiced with an excited tone. The Draconids stared at the newly arrived 2 on the wall with them. Mind your words, Earthling. We are not here to fight, one of the Draconids stated. Then what are you here for? Ealdris questioned with a calm demeanor. Their captain hurt Falco, Gustav stated before the Draconid could reply. What? They hurt Falco? And Ealdris voiced with surprised tones as they glared at the Draconids. At this same moment, the others were arriving as well and found their way to the wall. A lever landed directly on it, while the others climbed and leapt to the top. Did someone say Falco got hurt? Matilda voiced. Gus, let's make them pay, Teamy said while red energy blasted forth from his figure. Where is Falco? Glade questioned while Vera stood in place silent as usual. On the other side of the wall, Vice-Captain Austral seemed to be in a small argument with Captain Strom, and this time she wasn't backing down. You expect me to just withdraw and bring shame to our great planet? Have you gone mad, Austral? Captain Strom said with a tone of annoyance. Now that his teammates have arrived, it will become a nuisance. Now is neither the place nor the time. We should be gathering as many eggs as possible. This is just an unnecessary delay, Vice-Captain Austral stated. I shall not. You will have the opportunity to face any one of them you wish to again when the time comes. Then you can have a proper fighting stage and show the might of our great planet to everyone. For now, it is best we withdraw, she explained with a convincing tone. Captain Strom had a slightly sour look but was starting to see reason. Why? He flew upwards in the next instant. Withdraw, everyone. Yes, Captain, the Draconids answered and ascended as well. Where do y'all think you're going? Do you think you can just leave after hurting our teammate? Teamy voiced as the whole vicinity suddenly turned completely red. Captain Strom paused in midair and turned to stare at the Earthlings standing on the wall. I have no business with you. Gustav crimson. We will meet again to finish what we started soon. After saying this, he sped forward with speed, disappearing into the distance. Udon. My apologies, Vice-Captain Austral, who was still floating in place, interrupted Teamy. Before he could do anything, we don't want to cause a mess, and we believe this is also in the best interests of Earth, as well since this will delay both parties in the gathering of eggs. Let's focus on the task at hand till we meet again later in the competition and have a proper battle, she explained politely. Austral, are you coming or what? Captain Strum's voice resounded in her mind. Farewell, she stated before flying away. What should we do, Gus? Questioned. Let's go after them. They will pay. Timmy yelled in anguish. Tap. Gustavs placed his palm on Timmy's shoulder. Let it be. What? How could? The vice-captain of the Draconets was right. Gustav cut Timmy off before he could complete his sentence. I agree. The battle would delay us, since it isn't the focus of this challenge. We can deal with them later, and we certainly will have the opportunity to, Eldris specified. Timmy slowly calmed himself after hearing this, but asked Gustav, You really didn't do anything after he harmed Falco? Would you believe it if I told you? He was nearly dead a couple of minutes ago. Gustav responded with a question. He looked fine to me, Timmy said. Gustav recalled his energy at this point and flew in the direction of the sacred jewel. Don't push the subject. You should know Gus well by now. There is no way he would just let a person who harmed someone he cares about go just like that, Eldris said to Timmy. Eldris is right. I would know since I've experienced his wrath firsthand. Endrick chipped in from the side. The tension within the group began to dissipate as they flew in the same direction Gustav headed in. We don't even know if he is the right person yet. We need more time. Our Lord said his offspring hangs around our target. So it has to be one of them. We cannot make the mistake of using the ultimate attack on the wrong person. Remember, we can only use it once. A group of dark phantom-like participants with dark bandage-like clothes wrapped around their body from head to toe could be seen transversing past a cold valley. What about our captain? One of them questioned. He is still making his findings. I believe we should have confirmation after this challenge. Another one answered as darkness steamed out from his head like smoke. The offspring, should we kill him too? One of them asked. Only if he fails to accept the throne, then he will no longer be of use to our Lord. We can execute him, if that happens. Flicker, flicker, Falco slowly opened his eyes to see a roof of icicle-like rocks covering his head. You're finally awake, Timmy voiced from the side. Ha! Am not dead? Falco muttered as he slowly sat up. Well, I would have sent the ones responsible to join you in the afterlife if you were, Timmy replied with a smile. If you're here then, the others. Falco looked around and could only see a floating viand or egg machine upwards and a charred ground beneath. They went to gather more eggs. I stayed to watch you with SJ, Timmy responded. SJ. Timmy showed a slightly confused expression before SJ appeared beside him. Oh, this thing that follows Gustav around, he voiced in understanding after seeing the translucent circular object with glowing internals. It saved you before Gustav arrived. Timmy began explaining everything that had happened since Falco was out. SJ had showed them the footage, so he also watched Gustav's arrival, when he nearly destroyed Captain Strum's existence with a single punch. Timmy was a bit astonished, but was happy to be alive nevertheless. However, something began to bug him after a couple of minutes of being awake. 62C5B294270 FM29 Ad 975E. Follow current novels on Top Novelful.com. Chapter 12. 03 Falco was a bit astonished, but was happy to be alive nevertheless. However, something began to bug him after a couple of minutes of being awake. He could no longer feel Dark Falco. Hey, Darko, are you there? Answer me. No matter how much he tried, there was no reply. It was like Dark Falco had disappeared. How long have I been out? Falco inquired. It's been 2 days, Timmy replied. 2 whole days? What the hell? Falco's face showed surprise. Be grateful that you're even alive. Gustav explained to us how the Draconet's captain ability worked, and it felt like you shouldn't have even survived that, Timmy said with a sincere tone. He was still surprised even till now. Bang! A figure descended upon the head of a massive arthropod-looking light brown creature, blasting a hole through it. Blood and all sort of internal organs flew in every direction as the figure stepped out of the hole on the creature's head. "That's the last of them," Gus said to the others around him. "Man, things sure have gotten easier since the group got back together," he voiced as he snapped his finger, causing a violet-colored egg to fall out of a vortex above Gustav. Gustav caught the 3 feet large egg with his right arm and proceeded to keep it in his storage device. So whoosh, a green blur sped towards them from the east and arrived before Gustav. "Captain, there are no more eggs left within a 150 miles radius." The participant with green hair had around 6 eggs of different colors piling in his grasp, which towered over him. "Gravitational manipulation has been activated." The eggs began floating, freeing the teammate from the difficulty of stabilizing them. "Good job, Wong," Gustav voiced as he tapped on his storage button. Zing, 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 zing. The eggs disappeared in the next instant as everyone else began gathering around Gustav. "Although, Captain, I don't see why we are gathering eggs we don't need," Wong voiced with a conflicted tone. "Alpha di alpha theta nu epsilon. How?" Wong asked once more. "You'll see when the time comes," Gustav responded with a small smirk. The others who were more familiar with Gustav could more or less tell what Gustav had in mind, and as usual, it was something cunning. "Let's head back to the designated point for now," Gustav instructed. "It must have been really smooth sailing for you before the group got together," Glade said to Wong as they began their journey back to the designated point. "What? Why do you say that?" Wong questioned as they sped side by side. "Because you don't understand why Gustav needs those useless eggs. You definitely didn't get chased or accosted by other participants who wanted your egg." Glade spoke with a slight look of ridicule. Wong still had a look of confusion even after hearing that. "The useless eggs are mostly going to be used to deter teams that come after us in the future with the intention of taking our eggs," Endrick voiced from above. He was standing atop an invisible floating platform that flew forward right above Glade and Wong. Oh, Wong had a look of realization mixed with contemplation after hearing that. He definitely didn't have to battle any greedy participants off. "I and Teamy even had to deal with those stinking Zionses," Glade stated. "I and Eldris had a group of Flokies chasing us for days too." Who was being lifted princess-style by a levera as they flew, yelled from above as well. Eldris chuckled as he recalled their experience. He got stripped," he voiced. Hey, foul man, you were supposed to keep it between both of us," yelled with a look of injustice. "Ha, I want to hear more about this. How did it happen?" Matilda cackled from the side. As Eldris narrated, a levera couldn't help but chuckle, causing to yell out more in injustice. The group recounted their experiences on their way over to the designated point, bring laughter in most cases, as some were hilarious and some were really so serious it had the group stunned. "Gustav, what about you? Anything interesting happen while you were waiting for us?" Abestos questioned. "Roalfa di alpha enuam. Haha, it's Gustav. Of course, many interesting things definitely happened with him," Matilda voiced. "The trouble magnet himself," added with a chuckle. "I found another dimension within the 4th disc," Gustav voiced from up ahead as he maintained the same speed with the group. "Wait, what?" "Brew, I fucking knew it." The group was both astonished and unsurprised at the same time. It was Gustav after all. He always got into all sorts of situations. Handler 1 didn't mention anything about another dimension, though. Vera's face showed a contemplative look. "There are lots of Viander eggs in that dimension," Gustav voiced, once more causing their astonishment to turn into confusion. "Viander eggs? Or eggs required to make a Viander egg?" A levera inquired. "Ready-made Viander eggs," Gustav responded. He initially didn't want to tell the others about this, but he decided that there was no point in keeping it from them. They wondered if the handler didn't mention anything about it due to the already created Viander eggs, and not wanting the participants to get off easy. Then why aren't we heading there instead of gathering required eggs? Yonda yelled with a look of dissatisfaction. Because there is no real means of getting in. There's a layer of protection on the way there that erases things from existence the moment they try to get past that point, Gustav explained. Ek, it erases anything? Sheila had a slightly fearful expression. Yes, Gustav replied. Then how did you get in? Effildhor inquired. I moved too fast for the layer to successfully erase me completely, although I did lose an arm, Gustav responded once more. They were all shocked since everyone knew that right after Angie, Gustav was the fastest in the group, yet he lost an arm. How fast were you moving? Ria asked. Around 1,500 times faster than the speed of sound. Gustav gave them a rough estimate. Yeah, no way in hell any of us are getting past that layer. He instantly gave up upon hearing that. Can we just use spatial abilities? Abestos questioned. Endrick initially wanted to mention the use of spatial abilities, but he realized Gustav would have already mentioned it if it was plausible. Won't work. You can only use it within and outside of the dimension, but you cannot use it to get in or out of it. Gustav shook his head. Although he knew there was most likely another way to get in due to the Diaperonian candidate that somehow ended up in there, but he decided not to mention this since he hadn't figured it out. The group soon arrived back at the designated point to see that Falco had regained consciousness. Man, you were out for some time, but you didn't miss much. He instantly began chatting with Falco upon their return. The group brought out the rest of the required colored eggs they had gathered and began placing them in the machine. Soon they had acquired another 2 Viander eggs, which Gustav proceeded to keep in his storage device. How many Viander eggs have we gathered in total now? Falco questioned. 17, Gustav responded. 17? Falco had a shocked expression on his face as he voiced out. Yeah. Gustav managed to find a dimension with already created Viander eggs and got a couple from there. Added with the ones we all gathered separately and together, Matilda counted with her fingers as she elaborated. The group sat together and began plotting their next step from here. There was no doubt that they had gathered quite the sum, but they still needed more, since they were unaware of how much other teams had gathered currently. We need to leave this region completely and explore another one. While I agree with that, by tomorrow the scoreboard will appear again to show the number of eggs every planet has gathered so far. If we acquire more eggs than everyone, we become a target. We should take our time. We don't really have time to laze around since the eggs are limited. Let's keep gathering eggs, but we won't make any more Viander eggs till after tomorrow. Gustav decided to go with what he did a week ago. The group decided to go with that, and decided on which direction to head in. During their time at the designated point, a few participants had approached, but didn't misbehave after seeing their numbers. If we end up being the planet with the highest number of eggs after tomorrow's scoreboard revelation, we will need a place to lay low, Falco voiced. I thought of that too, initially, but no, let's not do that unless the gap is insurmountable. Would be giving others the chance to increase their eggs while hiding ourselves. Gustav shook his head. If they want to steal from us, well, steal from them instead, Gustav stated. Chapter 12:04. The towering statues' terrains, if they want to steal from us, well, steal from them instead, Gustav stated. Yeah, those motherfuck asterisk RS can bring it on. He yelled with fired-up spirit. This way we'd also be able to increase the number of eggs we have while others are stealing from one another as well. Ealdris also agreed with the decision. Are you up for it? Gustav asked Falco, while placing a hand on his shoulder. Of course, why not? Falco responded with a wry smile. Good, Gustav voiced. Falco walked away with a contemplative look to wait for the others outside, the Iro silk cover. Darko, where the hell are you? He wondered internally as he raised his right palm. He isn't all right, the system voiced in Gustav's mind while he deactivated the Iro silk. I know, but I won't push it unless he asks for my help, Gustav replied, internally. Guys, shall we? E proceeded to conjure a large vortex. The group proceeded to move into the vortex and reappeared a great distance away. EE's spatial abilities had become so powerful that he could open a vortex in space while standing on the surface of a planet. His range had improved a great deal as well as many other aspects since their time at the oasis. The group wasted no time in searching for eggs upon arriving at a new environment. This was a sparse forest of frosty trees, which happened to have a sloppy terrain. Gustav's first action was scanning the entire vicinity and telling his teammates which direction to head in to gather eggs. They soon cleared the area of required colored eggs and moved on to the next. EE ensured to conjure a vortex that was close to 1,000 miles away just to make sure they were away from the vicinity completely. Gustav would always make sure to spread his senses around, so he could inform the group when there was nothing left. Occasionally, they came across different participants of other planets, but they continued on with their business, and only left if Gustav sensed that there was no eggs around. After many hours had gone by, they arrived in another area that happened to be silent and very gloomy. What stood out to them were the massive statue towers arranged in rows and columns across the surroundings. These statues were around 3,000 feet in height, and each of them looked similar to handlers with insect-like head and antennas that held their eyeballs. However, each of these frosty statues held on to different weapons, each just as massive as they were, and Gustav calculated that there were at least 10,000 statues. Since the statues were lined up in rows and columns, there were passable spaces in between them despite their figures covering up the entire vicinity. Is this ominous to you guys? Or it's just me? EE broke the silence as they stepped forward. Everything has been ominous since the Viander challenge began, Falco said. Yes, but super ominous. It seems like the statues are glaring at us. EE responded. That's because they actually are, Gustav replied, causing everyone to show startled looks. This is one of Thoth's challenge areas on THS 4th disk, where passing would get us eggs. Alevra seemed to have figured it out. She is right. If we don't go around this AEA and decide to pass through, we are technically accepting whatever challenge this place has for us, Gustav responded. And some of the others didn't realize this because they didn't encounter a similar terrain on their way to the designated point they were supposed to meet up at. Alevra, on the other hand, already engaged in some challenges herself, although it was different from this. She was instantly able to recognize this as one after viewing the similarities. The challenges are not very beneficial, since they only grant a single required egg after completion, Alevra voiced out. It wouldn't be very beneficial if it was a single person, but we're 20, which also means 20 eggs, Aeldra stated. Everyone nodded in agreement. 20 required colored eggs would be acquired if they were successful. Let's go, Gustav instructed. Everyone began stepping forward while activating their bloodline energies in preparation for what was to come. The instant they walked past the middle of the first statues before them, the eyeballs of the statues emitted a bright aqua glow. Bang, bang. 2 statues ahead suddenly dropped their arms to the side, slamming their weapons to the ground in between a space in their midst, blocking the path of the group. Their axes, like weapons, instantly emitted frosty fog that spread across the vicinity. Usually, they were unaffected by the intense coldness of the 4th disk. However, once this frost fog spread around, everyone felt their speed decreasing. It was like the frost had seeped into them and began to slow everything in their bodies down, including the flow of bloodline energy from their channels. Watch out! Alevra quickly pushed EE out of the way as the ground around them suddenly crumbled and a massive spiky ball shot out of it. It looked incredibly gigantic, but wasn't half the size of the statues around. Spread out, Gustav instructed as he kicked the ball. Bang! A loud collision reverberated across the vicinity as it ascended further into the air. But then Gustav noticed that half his leg was covered in frost. Chenji! He hissed in pain and quickly emitted flames from his body. However, the frost remained. Don't touch the ball, Gustav yelled as the ball began descending from the air. Spy, 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 spy. The massive spiky ball made of frost suddenly multiplied in midair as it descended. Move now, Gustav yelled to the others to begin heading forward. They split in different directions, avoiding the path that was blocked by the massive axes of the two statues. Hover, Gustav conjured an atomic blade as he floated a little above the ground while speeding forward in between multiple statues. Slash. He swung downwards, cleaving his right leg off. Plop. Blood flowed out like a fountain as his leg fell to the frosty, sloppy ground and began rolling down. He hardly flinched as he snapped his fingers, causing a milky glow to fall on his cleaved-off leg. Fish, the leg began disintegrating into light particles as he kept flying forward. One of the split, massive spiky balls followed him from behind as he sped forward. Bang, 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 bang. Weapons suddenly descended up ahead, blocking the path with the ball still chasing from behind. The surrounding statues also made their weapons descend, blocking the left and the right to cut off escape as more frost spread across the vicinity. Thump. Gustav wasted no time in flying upwards, so as to go over the spaces left above the weapons that blocked his path. All of a sudden, fly! Two statues let go of their weapons and swung their hands backwards. Pa! Gustav was instantly slapped backwards as soon as he reached a particular height. Thump! The spiky ball ascended into the air at this same moment, and it seemed like Gustav's catapulted body would slam into it with his back. Zing! The Jiko Hakai katana appeared in his grasp in the last instant as he spun a little over and swung his hand downwards to hit the ball, so as to completely avoid making contact with it. Thryrii! In the slight millisecond of the katana blade making contact with the ball, frost spread from it to Gustav's forearm. Fining! The collision sent the ball tumbling downwards with a metallic echo spreading across the vicinity, while Gustav landed a couple of feet behind on his left leg. Mental manipulation has been activated. Guys, make sure you don't make any sort of contact with the ice ball, even if you make use of an extendable object, Gustav quickly warned through Mind Link. Vera, who was about making use of one of the vines from the forestry surrounding her being to capture a ball, quickly paused. The vines happened to be attached to her body as well, so fortunately for her, she avoided getting turned into frost like Gustav. Things were a walk in the park for EE as he kept conjuring vortexes that sent the balls to another location while he sped away. He didn't try conjuring a vortex that would take him past the challenge area because they were unaware if that would result in disqualification, and he wasn't willing to risk it since they needed the eggs. Gustav cleaved his entire right arm as he sped to the side and began flying to escape the ice ball and the blocked paths. At this point, "I'll turn limbless," Gustav voiced as he kept flying forward. He quickly arrived at an unblocked area and turned around to resume speeding forward. You could easily destroy the ice ball without making contact, but you risk disqualification since it looks like the challenge is to escape them. The system stated, "I am aware, and you're not helping. Gustav's only reason for attacking the balls were to deter them and avoid making any contact." Chapter 12, 05, I am aware, and you're not helping. Gustav's only reason for attacking the balls were to deter them and avoid making any contact. He was never trying to destroy them in the first place. Fly high. As the group made it past a quarter of the statue challenge terrain, the statues behind suddenly stabbed their weapons downwards. Bang, 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 bang. The statues behind, lined in an horizontal format, blocked the path with their weapons slamming into the ground. The ice balls chasing after Gustav and the others were completely blocked off and could no longer chase them. Phew, that was something. EE heaved a sigh of relief as the group came together once more. "Man, you didn't even have any issues. Timmy voiced with a slight tone of annoyance. Gustav, are you okay? Vera questioned as they stared at Gustav standing with a single leg and missing an arm as well. It will grow back, Gustav stated. Don't let your guard down. We're not out of the clear yet, he quickly added before the group could ask any more questions. We've definitely entered another stage of the challenge, Aeldra stated as they peered forward with intrigued and wary gazes. We should, just as Falco was about to suggest something. The ground began caving in around them. Karryycchh. Die, as the icy, sloppy ground caved in around them. They were forced to head towards the middle path, as it seemed to be the only unaffected area. The statues remained standing in the vicinity despite the crumbling grounds. The team arrived in the middle path, which was large enough for them to stand side by side. Looking over the edge, they could see a water body hundreds of feet below, where the grounds had caved in. God Eyes has been activated. It is, as I suspected, the water below us is not ordinary, Gustav informed the others. The instant he inspected the liquid below, a metal bar appeared in Gustav's grasp from his storage space, which he proceeded to drop as he stood before the ledge. As the bar fell towards the liquid below, it began freezing up before turning into a complete chunk of ice in midair. It hit the liquid moments later and drowned in it, which meant the body water below them was extremely cold, cold enough for the mist emitting from it to turn anything or anyone into a statue of frost before they even hit the surface, yet the water body remained liquid. We just got to make sure we don't fall in, right? Rhea said while gulping down saliva. I don't think they intend to let us make it through, E voiced while pointing at the statues lining up on the sides of the path up ahead. Finding high, their eyes emitted a silver gleam as they raised the weapons in their hands. Move, Gustav instructed. Bang. Everyone dashed forward as quickly as they could, missing the descent of a massive club-like weapon that slammed into the path. Karryycchh. Web-like cracks spread across the place as the path began to split open. The group had rushed forth, so they escaped the area of impact. However, up ahead, the other statues were swinging their weapons downwards and backwards. Fwye! Gustav jumped slightly as he reached a particular distance. A massive blade, the size of a 5-story building, swept below him as he ascended, sending blistering winds across the vicinity. Regeneration complete. Watch out, Gustav warned the others since he happened to be ahead. Unfortunately, he seemed to be the one in need of this warning as a massive staff-like weapon shot forward, heading in his direction as he had ascended to the exact height needed to make contact. His entire figure had been covered up by the looming shadow of this gigantic staff which had arrived before him in an instant. Gustav swiftly reacted by stepping forward in midair. Dash has been activated. Swoosh. He sped across the tip of the massive spear, arriving atop its body in an instant. Fuhush. Roal Fidialpha and Nu Omdatathat Nu Epsilon, Mai's teammates who were initially worried, showed expressions of relief as they also did well to avoid the oncoming onslaughts of the statues. Bang, 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 bang. Timmy had conjured a spherical red enclosure that encompassed his entire being as he flew forward and zigzagged his way across the path to dodge the weapons. Don't try to parry the attacks. Just do your best to escape them, Gustav announced up ahead as he did multiple front flips in mid-air, dodging massive metal balls that shot forward from a cannon-like weapon in the grasp of one of the statues. Snap. Massive vortexes opened up, swallowing the weapons in EES path and appearing far in the sky. Alevra and a few others who happened to trail behind him had no issues with the attacks of the statues. They only had to make sure they were quick enough to escape the areas affected by the collision of the weapons, which caused the path to cave in. Show off! Glade made a low TCH as she jumped and swerved sideways repeatedly, dodging the flurry of attacks while watching Timmy escape them effortlessly. It's not my fault you chose weaker abilities, Timmy shrugged. A gigantic axe-like weapon swung downwards before Gustav, which he proceeded to latch onto. The statue lifted its weapon back in the air unbeknownst to it that Gustav held onto it. After ascending more than 1,000 feet in the air, Gustav leapt off the axe. Guys, the path ahead is missing, and there are ghastly-looking hands extending from the liquid below. Gustav informed them as he sped forward. Can't we just leap over? Or better still, EE could open a vortex for us to get past that area, Timmy and Falco questioned through the mind link. If only it were that simple. Gustav proceeded to explain that there happened to be a barrier of sorts ahead that would prevent them from getting to where the path resumed. If they decided to leap over, they would slam into the barrier and fall into the liquid below, or get dragged into it by the massive hands protruding from it. If EB was to open a vortex, and they got past the barrier due to that, it might count as disqualification since he had noticed a small platform that extended from the surface of the water body below. This platform was in the middle of the sunken area, and the arms protruding from the water body were surrounding it. The platform has a standpoint that I believe deactivates the barrier, so everyone would be able to leap over and arrive on the new path. The instant Gustav got to this point, he descended from above with speed. Why, leap now! Gustav's presence had attracted the hands, which shot forward in an attempt to grab him. Bang! The instant Gustav landed on the platform, his teammates leapt forward simultaneously, while the barrier got deactivated. The small platform, which was only 2 feet in length and breadth, really had no space for Gustav to escape in, as the hands tried to wrap around his figure. Size manipulation has been activated. Unfortunately for them, Gustav evaded the reaches one after the other as he decreased and increased his body size as desired. The liquid hands would squeeze up, thinking they had the gruesome being in their grasp on a notice. He was standing on the platform, finger-sized. Swai. Gustav would occasionally change size, becoming either as thin as a piece of paper and slanting backwards, of making himself very little after a few seconds of evasion. The arms all reached out at the same time to grab him in frustration, but Gustav had already achieved his goal, so he didn't need to stay here any longer. Size manipulation has been deactivated. Thump! Gustav leapt off the platform instantly, arriving at the start of a new path. They all headed forward together the instant he arrived there. Now they had crossed another 2/4 of the terrain that the massive statues covered. Only 1/4 was left. 30 minutes later. That was kinda exciting, Matilda voiced as the group walked together across a ridge while holding on to different colors of eggs. A couple 100 feet behind them was a terrain of massive, frosted-looking statues. It got smaller the further they walked. We could have scaled through that easily if it was a battle. It's no fun to just evade things. I want to break things. Glade spoke with a slightly irritated tone. Maybe could learn from this instead of seeing it as a chore due to restrictions, Eldris voiced with a smile as his silver hair fluttered in the wind. Chapter 12. 06. Maybe could learn from this instead of seeing it as a chore due to restrictions, Eldris voiced with a smile as his silver hair fluttered in the wind. I have said this before. Not every battle will be a battle of strength or power, Gustav voiced with calm tone. There will be battles you cannot win with just your fists. That is where your wits and intelligence comes in, he added. Indeed, intelligence is power, but power isn't always intelligence, and something intelligence could save you where power fails, Eldris voiced out as well, causing the teammates to show expressions of understanding. I see why they are the captains of the team, Wong voiced with a tone of inspiration. Glade kept quiet while everyone handed their eggs over to Gustav so he could keep them in his storage device. We should head back to the designated point, Falco suggested. Thai-ish. Immediately after Falco spoke, screen projections began appearing in the sky. The scoreboards are here. Every participant across the fourth disc gazed upwards with expressions of intrigue. 1, Planet Earth, 17 Viander eggs greater than 6,800 points 2. Planet Diaperonian, 15 Viander eggs greater than 6,000 points 3. Planet Osius, 12 Viander eggs greater than 4,800 points 4. Planet Draconet, 11 Viander eggs greater than 4,400 points 5. Planet Hixto, 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points 6. Planet Diov, 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points 7. Planet Indulus Prime, 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points 8. Planet Triptes, 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points 9. Planet Gundabalt, 9 Viander eggs greater than 3,600 points 10. Planet Zillion, 8 Viander eggs greater than 3,200 points 11. Planet Claxosape, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800 points 12. Planet Oxlurk, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800 points 13. Planet Cyrus, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800 points 14. Planet Osiris, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800 points 15. Planet Orion, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800 points 16. Planet Astambid, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800 points 17. Planet VA, 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400 points 18. Planet Roidenstack, 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400 points 19. Planet V #B, 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400 points 20. Planet Kivendale, 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400 points 21. Planet T429, 6 Viander eggs 2,400. The list continued on till it reached the number 1897, displaying the scores of all the planets currently participating in ISOP. Were number 1. Matilda voiced with a tone of excitement. "Oh shit, we are number 1, E stated as well with excitement. Then a look of realization dawned on him. "We're number 1. That's also bad, isn't it?" he questioned. "Yeah, we become targets," Gustav nodded. "But like I said, if they come to take from us, we will take from them instead," Gustav added. "It doesn't really seem like there is much to take from others," Falco said while still staring up. From the numbers 527, the planets beneath hadn't managed to acquire a single Viander egg. This meant there were currently over 1,000 planets without a single point. If these planets banded together out of desperation and went after the others, it would turn into a difficult war down here. If we're also being honest, only around 200 planets are worth getting worried about. The rest aren't that strong. Wong shrugged his shoulders while speaking. "Don't underestimate the strength in numbers," Eldris voiced with a tone of caution. "Well, tread carefully and only partake in battles that we can handle. If push comes to shove, we can also leave." Gustav finally spoke, since they could easily escape from any situation that was out of their control. "Only 1 week more till the Viander challenge ends. We can do this," Abesto said with a look of motivation. However, Gustav's face currently displayed a suspicious expression as he glared at the planet in second place. Diaperonians, they weren't even top 400 the last time. His mind instantly traveled back to the dead Diaperonian candidate that the Zerg chief turned into his slave. Rho Alpha D Alpha and Nu Omit can't be a coincidence. They must be aware of the existence of that dimension. If they haven't already infiltrated it, with this thought in mind, Gustav felt their position as number 1 could be threatened. The Diaperonians weren't even seen as a challenge, initially due to their weakness, so the reveal of the scoreboard must have surprised everyone. Earth was still considered one of the leading bodies of the Alliance, so it wouldn't be so surprising to see them at the top. The same couldn't be said for the Diaperonians. "We need to gather more eggs," Gustav stated. "I don't think we can," Falco suddenly voiced out. "I just calculated the total number of Viander eggs that has been acquired, and only around 7 are left that can be created," Falco added. Yeah, after we create more Viander eggs from the eggs currently in our possession. Only around 3 will be left, Gustav replied, as he was well aware that it would be a little more than 3, since he had acquired some eggs from that other dimension. However, without a doubt, there were very few number of required colored eggs left on the 4th disk, and acquiring them before other planets got hold of them was close to impossible. The 4th disk was still stupendously immense, and trying to scour its entirety before a week was up would be a completely impossible mission. The other planets would not just sit still and let others gather the rest of the required colored eggs either. So, how do we gather more eggs since none are practically left at this moment, or are getting it from others like you said? Falco inquired. We won't be taking the initiative to approach anyone unless they approach us first, so no. We'll head to that dimension I spoke of and gather a couple of eggs. I have a feeling I am not the only one that knows how to get there, Gustav voiced with his tone, hinting suspiciousness. I thought you said. I know what I said. Gustav cut Rhea off before he could complete his sentence. Well, just have to find another way in, Gustav added. How do we do that? Glade questioned. I guess I'll have to ask someone who knows. Gustav's reply was cryptic, but the others already knew how he was. It just meant he already had a plan in mind, which he has decided to follow through with. The group began hurrying back to the designated point. Alpha D Alpha Theta Theta Nu Epsilon. Theta. Few hours later, we have 20 Viander eggs now. Do we really need to go to this other dimension to get more? Falco questioned with a slightly wary look. Yeah, we do, Gustav responded while deactivating the Iro silk around the designated point. Why don't we just stay here, hide out, and protect ourselves? I think we'll still win, Falco suggested. I'm with Falco on this. You said it yourself that the other dimension was really dangerous even for you, Matilda voiced out as well. In that dimension, I counted close to 100 Viander eggs, and I took only 4, which means if other participants found it and managed to scale through the dangers, they could possibly acquire way more than we currently have. Well, if you guys are okay with losing, then it's fine. Gustav responded with an unbothered tone. What? Someone else has found the place? Rhea yelled with a look of concern. You didn't tell us everything, Filher said with a tone of suspiciousness. Did you meet another participant there? Yonda questioned. Do they count as a participant if they're dead? This question took everyone by surprise as they stared at Gustav with expressions of confoundment and contemplation. Either way, it's a bit too complicated for y'all to understand, but understand that there is no guarantee that we will win even though we are currently number 1, Gustav voiced. How do we get there? Eldris questioned. That's what I want to figure out, Gustav voiced as his body levitated. Hover has been activated. Follow me, he instructed before flying forward. Fushishum, the group wasted no time in following after Gustav. After some time, the group stood before what looked like a gargantuan chasm. It looked like a split on the 4th disk, but it was so massive that the bottom could not be spotted, neither could the other end of the chasm due to the intense width. All that could be seen from up here was darkness. It really looked like the end of the 4th disk, but Gustav was well aware that it wasn't. This is how I got in. Gustav pointed at the endless darkness gazing back at them below. That looks like a way off the planet, Matilda said with a wary tone. Not all of them could fly like Gustav, so this was a dangerous spot to be in. It isn't. You guys just wait for me here. I'll be back as soon as I can, Gustav said before stepping forward. Fwaiwayayi, the group watched him free fall into the jaws of darkness below. His figure soon disappeared from their sight after a few moments. He's going to be fine, right? Wong questioned, causing everyone to stare at him with a weird expression. It's Gustav, a couple of them voiced simultaneously. I tend to worry more about his oppositions more than I worry about him, Fildhor added. Chapter 1207s. I tend to worry more about his oppositions more than I worry about him, Fildhor added. 600,000 feet, 700,000 feet, 800,000 feet. You're there. I am aware. Sure you are. You're only useful in telling me information that I am already aware of, which makes you useless. You're the useless one, humph. Gustav ignored the system and activated Ultimate Combination. Immediately after his body finished transforming, he built up a tremendous amount of energy around him as he prepared to speed downwards past the layer that erased things from existence. Lightning Blitz has been activated. As coupling Lightning Blitz with the speed of his ultimate combination, Gustav's form transformed into a silver lightning streak. I need you to show me where you found the corpse, Gustav stated as he stood before a massive 20 feet tall figure with an upside-down horn. Is that why you have returned, Savior? The chief of the Zergs questioned with a wary expression. Yes, there is something I have to investigate, Gustav stated in response. The chief of the Zergs turned to stare in a particular direction, which Gustav's eyes also followed. There. Gustav pointed at what looked like a passageway by the side of a large rocky wall. One could easily fall from this ledge of this passageway, since its right had no railing or wall, whereas the wall of this chasm was located on the left. It extended into the distance, farther than the normal eye could reach. It'll take you there, the chief of the Zergs voiced before turning to the side and stepping forward. The wall of the chasm was quite distant, and Gustav didn't want to waste any time, so he quickly sped forward. Fuhush, just direct me, Gustav voiced as he picked up the 20 feet large chief and leapt into the air. They soon arrived at the wall of the chasm and stepped onto the platform that extended from it into the distance. The land was soon far from them, as all that could be spotted on the side was another endless looming depth with fog all over. A couple of minutes later, Gustav and the chief arrived at a part of the chasm wall which had a boulder-sized hole. There was a small space within which looked like a cave, but it was completely empty. This was where I found both of them, the chief of the Zergs stated while hinting at the hole. Them? You found more than one? Gustav questioned with a look of confoundment. Yes, Savior. After you left the last time. Patrolling guard Zergs found yet another corpse similar looking to the one I turned into my slave, the chief of the Zergs stated. Another Diaperonian dead? There's something off about this whole thing, Gustav thought after hearing this. So, you have another slave now? Gustav questioned. Unfortunately, the guards found the corpse too late. I was unable to bring the corpse back to life. The chief of the Zergs shook his head. You said, this was not too long after I left, Gustav inquired. Yes, Savior. We found nothing else here. But this is the same place where the one I resurrected appeared as well, the chief of the Zergs confirmed. Something is definitely fishy. The first one was already suspicious, but with the second, I can be sure that something is going on just as I thought, Gustav said internally. It is just as you humans say, lightning never strikes in the same place twice. The system inputted. And no one uses that term these days. Mixed bloods with such abilities could do that, Gustav said internally. You know what I mean? The system voiced. New quest has been issued. Gustav saw a notification pop up in his line of sight at this moment. Really? Right now? Gustav voiced out loud. Savior. The chief of the Zergs had a look of confusion. You can leave now. It'll be here in the meantime, Gustav said to the chief of the Zergs. The chief bowed slightly before turning around to start walking away. Tell your guards not to approach this area as well, Gustav voiced as the chief walked away. He paused briefly before turning around to bow, slightly. The Zergs were incredibly fearful of Gustav's existence, so they never questioned anything he said. A person that could render their special ability useless, and even use a better one against them, was to be feared from their point of view. Successfully bring the rest of Earth's candidate into the dimension in between the 4th and 5th disk. Duration 48 hours. Failure punishment -1000000 EXP. Success rewards plus 10,000,000 EXP. Rho Alpha D Alpha. NU Gustav stared at the details of the quest before questioning. Planet Osius hours or Earth hours? Planet Ozius, obviously, since we're far from Earth right now. The system responded, "All right. This was the plan before the quest anyways, so it doesn't really matter," Gustav voiced as he stepped into the cave. God Eyes has been activated. Residual DNA samples and small specks of energy in the environment shows that there have been more than 2 people here, Gustav voiced as he squatted within the cave. And the others were not the Zergs, they were Diaperonians as well. Gustav could see microscopic level tissues from the goo that would usually cover their bodies, and something else he couldn't explain at the moment. Millions of theories were going through his head as he scanned the area for a few more seconds before making a decision. Gustav's body morphed quickly as he placed his back to a part of the wall of the cave. In the next moment, he had become a part of the rough walls of the cave. Cognitive concealment has been activated. At the same moment, his presence completely disappeared as he blended into the surroundings. If a person was to step into this place, they would be totally unaware that a living being was in the vicinity. "How long has it been now?" Glade questioned as the group sat before the massive chasm. "Roughly a day. I didn't think you would take this long," Falco said with a slightly worried expression. "He must be experiencing troubles, I guess," Wong voiced. "We just have to wait. I'm sure he will appear any time now," Eldris said with a tone of encouragement. "Seems like something else is appearing instead," Matilda voiced while pointing at the east skies. "Oh-ho," Sheila eyes knitted. What looked like a purple cloud was approaching, but on closer look, it was actually a swarm. A purple swarm of tiny triangular particles approaching at insane speed. "That's not all," Elevra called out to the rest of the group after taking off the head tie covering her forehead. The purplish eyeball embedded into her forehead twitched repeatedly as it gleamed dangerously. "There are 6 more groups approaching, but they are still far behind," she voiced. "Looks like it has begun," Abestos voiced as everyone stood to their feet and began activating their bloodlines. "How did they even find us?" Wong questioned with a concerned tone. "That shouldn't be our focus right now. Let's take them down," Eldris voiced with a smile, while his eye remained closed. Send that swarm away," he instructed. "Sure thing," eyes gleamed with violet-colored energy as he twirled his fingers. "Zism, Alpha D Alpha Theta Nu Epsilon." Pushed his palm forward, and the vortex obeyed his command, driving forward to swallow everything in its path. Duration: 48 hours. Time elapsed: 38 hours. Looks like you're running out of time, the system voiced. "I am aware, but I still have to wait. I cannot risk trying to bring them in with just my abilities." Sure, Dumbo. Within the cave by the wall of the chasm, Gustav remained a piece of rock that blended into the surroundings and had been waiting for over a day. "If my speculations are correct, it should be happening any time soon," Gustav thought. -10 minutes later anytime soon - 20 minutes later anytime soon - 30 minutes later, any time from now - 1 hour later. "I swear if you say anytime soon again he'll develop a real body and punch you in the face." The girly voice of the system sounded frustrated. "But it should be happening any time soon. You little—" Just as the system was about to berate him again, a small whitish spark appeared in the middle of the cave. "Hold," Gustav stated as he felt a whirling sensation. "Fying." In the next instant, an ashy goo-covered corpse appeared in the cave. Bam! It fell to the floor of the cave, causing goo to spread across the place. However, nothing else happened. "That can't be it," Gustav voiced as he swiftly shape-shifted back into his original look. Fwai! He noticed the white spark that brought the corpse here disappearing and quickly reached out to grab it. Gustav felt a mythical pull in the next instant as his entire frame suddenly disappeared into the spark. Chapter 12. Gustav felt a mythical pull in the next instant as his entire frame suddenly disappeared into the spark. In the next instant, Gustav found himself standing atop a small rock surrounded by a body of sparkling green water. Who in the name of the gods is this? A loud yell welcomed his arrival. Gustav noticed that besides the rock protruding from the surface of this green body of water, a group of 17 people with ashy goo covering their entire body surrounded him. On the rock was a formation of unknown glyphics, shapes, and lines that emitted a white glow. Thryria, a small, dark portal began opening up ahead on the body of water, while the participants around him glared at him in confusion and disbelief. Diaperonians, that means Gustav instantly put 2 and 2 together. At this moment, all of the dots connected, and he was finally able to tell exactly what was going on. How did an earthling get here from the circle? Restrain him first, we'll ask him questions later, they yelled out as snake-like creatures burrowed out of where their eyes were located. However, they were too slow, as Gustav's eyes were already emitting a pink and reddish glow shaped like a cross on his irises. Diahin, a small wave of energy spread forth from Gustav being as he activated Yarki on a very small scale. Dash, what is going on? Dash, I can't move. Dash, I think this earthling is... Gustav Crimson. Dash, there... Captain? The Diaperonians had shaky tones as they barely managed to utter words in their frozen states. Bam, bam, bam. They began falling to their knees within the water, which happened to be at their chest area currently. They had only just realized who Gustav was, but they were still astonished because no one was aware that he possessed such an ability. They only had the intuition that he was amongst the strongest participants. As the portal opened up before Gustav, he inspected it for a moment before turning to stare at one of the Diaperonians. This leads to that other dimension within the 4th disc, right? He asked. How does he know about that? This was the question running through their minds as they knelt in place. Gustav didn't need an answer to what he was sure about. He climbed down from the rock and began tapping on the dimensional bracelet strapped to his left wrist. Now y'all hold on to one another, Gustav voiced, which in turn caused them to move forward till they were making contact in a perfect circular formation. After picking a checkpoint, he tapped onto the gooey shoulder of one of the Diaperonians. What is he doing? We need to break free from this right now. 3, we're in trouble. 2, no matter how much the Diaperonians tried, they couldn't break free from Gustav's Yarki. 1, Alpha Dialpha Theta Nu Epsilon, a flash of blue light encapsulated the entire vicinity, and in the next instant, the Diaperonians were all gone. The portal is closing. You have less than 5 seconds, the system voiced in Gustav's mind. 15 seconds should be plausible. Gustav was already picking another checkpoint the instant the Diaperonians were gone. This checkpoint was one he had left at the edge of the chasm before jumping into it to head to the other dimension. 3, 2, 1. Another flash of blue light encapsulated Gustav's frame as he vanished in the next moment. Boom, boom, boom. The instant Gustav arrived at his destination, he was met with mighty waves of destruction that sent shockwaves all across the place. I was only gone for almost 2 days. That's a lot of time, the system voiced. We don't have time for this, Gustav said as his perception spread across the vicinity. He was facing a bunch of participants with gem-like bodies alongside Eldris. Endrick was in midair, swinging his hand down and causing a calamitous disaster across the vicinity as massive telekinetic palms descended. Roal Fidialpha Nu Amalevra was on the west with flying forward, as a purplish beam shot downwards from her forehead, causing a rift in the ground below. The whole team was in a heated battle with multiple other planet groups, and it was very heated at the moment. Mental manipulation has been activated. Get everyone to me right now. Gustav made use of Mind Link to quickly pass a message. Who was thousands of feet away, turned around and spotted Gustav. You're back. We have limited time. Do it now. Gustav quickly cut off before he could say any more. Wasted no time in clasping his hands together and turning them before separating his palms. To wash, to wash, to wash, to wash, to wash. Vortexes began to open all across the vicinity, which pulled every single Earth participants into it. A vortex opened before Gustav, who was already tapping on his dimensional bracelet. The instant everyone began appearing from the vortex in duos or trios, the dimensional bracelet began counting down. "Hold on to each other right now," Gustav instructed as soon as they arrived. 3. At the same time, Gustav felt the approaching presences of the other participants around. They were over 100 in number, speeding towards them right now. Gustav had no doubt that some of them would arrive before the dimensional bracelet teleported them out of here, and he couldn't risk letting any one of them ruin it. Breerig. His body bloated slightly as he turned greenish and stomped on the ground. 2. Icicle-like rocks shot out of the ground at very quick pace, surrounding the entirety of the earth, participants like a barricade. 1. At this same moment, multiple of the participants around had began attacking the barricade, causing the space within to tremble immensely. Gustav reached out to grab Aeldra's shoulder at this point, since everyone had formed a circle where they held each other. 0. Flying. The other planet participants attacking the Iro Silk barricade from the outside could see rays of blinding blue glow poking out of the small spaces in between the Iro Silk. In the next instant, the Earth participants were gone. "Get in right away," Gustav instructed the instant everyone arrived within a small body of green water with a rock protruding out of its surface ahead. They could see a dark-looking portal ahead of the rock that seemed to be decreasing in size already. They didn't ask questions and quickly sped forward before the portal could close up completely. Swoosh! Gustav sped right into it at the last millisecond after everyone was in. The portal completely disappeared that instant, and the surroundings were left in utter silence. How dare him? He stole our blood, our hard work. Within an area with caves and a burning frosted tree up ahead, a group of participants with ashy goo-covered body could be seen sprawled all over. One of them melted completely onto the terrain and swiveled across the icy ground towards the bottom of the blazing frosty tree. How did he even know what we were up to? A mouth that had formed from the goo that seemed to have gone splat on the ground began speaking. No matter how much we think about it, I don't think we will figure it out unless we ask him first. We must have our revenge. The other Diaperonians voiced with tones of dissatisfaction. I understand everyone's rage, but right now we should be focused on one thing: winning the Viander challenge. The Diaperonian on the ground, who seemed to be the captain, stated, "Since Gustav Crimson, the Earth Captain, must have made use of the portal, he is aware of the other dimension and obviously intends to gather more eggs. We have to get there as soon as we can to gather more. I am sure he is unaware of the process and knows nothing about the timer, so we can still best them," the Diaperonian captain voiced. Just as another one of them was about to speak, they were interrupted by a raspy and loud voice from behind. "Did you just mention Gustav Crimson?" A participant with completely dark wraps of bandage, like clothes covering his entire body, could be seen approaching them. His eyes were extremely dark and soulless, emitting an enchanting pull, as his figure emitted dark mist as well. I mean no harm. Neither do I approach with malicious intent," the dark figure spoke. "I just need you to tell me about what happened with Gustav Crimson. Your information will be much appreciated," he added. The Diaperonians' eyes could not be seen due to the goo that covered their body, but it was obvious that they were currently staring at each other. "Well, this is what happened." The captain went on to narrate their encounter with Gustav while leaving out details of their plans and what they were doing in that location in the first place. The dark figure didn't seem to care about what they purpose there was. He was only interested in the actions Gustav performed there. He shook his head. "Their whole civilization must be full of lunatics. I don't think they will stop there. They are most likely ready to sacrifice another teammate to get in," Aeldra stated. Which also begs the question of why they kept leaving if this wasn't the first time they sacrificed a teammate. Endrick chipped in with a tone of curiosity. There's only one answer to that, a time limit, Gustav stated with a tone of certainty. I believe the mark on my hand just got a little fainter, Elever said with knitted eyebrows. There you have it. Everyone will most likely get pulled out of this dimension the instant the mark disappears from our skin. Gustav, then what are we waiting for? Let's gather as many eggs as we can before we leave here, Rhea yelled. Gustav had formulated plans in his mind the instant he got the group in, so he wasn't bothered about gathering eggs without drawing attention to himself. Even if he drew attention to them, he was also less concerned since the whole group was here as well. Especially with EES presence here, getting Viander eggs would be way more easy. One of the many things that bothered the group about the Diaperonians was how they had become aware of the existence of this dimension in the first place, as well as how they knew what to do to get in. Gustav could only chalk it up to prior awareness. Someone had informed the Diaperonians beforehand, or they had somehow gotten wind of the information long before Viander Challenge began. How this was possible, no one knew. The Diaperonians had now climbed up Gustav's danger list. They were definitely a race that needed to be watched out for. 67,235 feet, Gustav voiced with God, eyes activated. EES eyes glowed as he poked his index finger in the air and began outlining a circle. No, you're a couple of feet away, they might spot you, Gustav cautioned. He paused for a bit before performing the same action as before. After he formed the circle in midair, a small 3 feet wide vortex had opened up. He proceeded to put his palm in and grab something before pulling it out. Zrum, the vortex vanished after he pulled out a Viander egg, which he passed to Gustav. Good job, Gustav voiced before keeping it within his storage space. That makes 19, he voiced. Yeah, let's get 3 more and give it a rest before time runs out, Gustav stated. 3 more? We still have at least 2 hours before we run out of time, Yonda said while pointing at his wrists. Why are we not getting every single Viander egg before leaving here? Fildhor chimed in. Because it strips the creatures here of their abilities and renders the dimension unstable. I may not care about people, but I won't be responsible for the destruction of all the species here, Gustav stated. I don't think the Diaperonians will share your sentiment, Falco voiced. What makes you think they will care about the existence of the creatures down here? After all, they're willing to sacrifice their own kin, Yonda voiced out as well. Then we just have to stop them. We are bound to encounter them eventually, Eldris suggested. I think it's better to take it all than let it fall into their hands, Yonda stated. Some of the teammates agreed with Yonda, while others didn't wish to see the dimension destroyed due to their acts, and it caused an argument to brew. Stop, Gustav suddenly voiced out. They're close, he added before turning to stare in a particular direction. The Diaperonians? Timmy questioned. Yes, down there. Gustav pointed northeast. They just acquired another Viander egg, he added before asking EE to open a vortex. Whatever you do, don't stare at them, Gustav warned as he jumped into the vortex. The others followed after him as well, and the group soon found themselves on a plain, dark ground with multiple rock formations ahead. That's enough. Do not take any more eggs from here, Gustav stated the instant they arrived behind the group of walking gooey humanoid figures. Earth Captain Gustav Crimson. You have earned my ire, one of the Diaperonians spoke up as soon as they spotted Gustav. Okay, seems like a you problem. Anyways, like I said, you've gotten enough eggs. Leave, Gustav demanded. Not until all the Viander eggs in this dimension is within my possession, the Diaperonian captain voiced out. The dimension would collapse in on itself if that happened, Gustav warned. We don't care about lower life forms. We must come first in the challenge, the captain responded. You see, Yonda voiced with an I told you so look. This is the last you take, Gustav stated while stepping forward. I refuse, the Diaperonian captain voiced before dropping to the ground splat and swiveling forward. At this same instant, the other Diaperonians dematerialized completely as well, leaping into the air in complete thick liquid form. Gravitational manipulation has been activated. 62C5B294279975E. Follow current novels on topnovelful.com. Chapter 12:10 Warning the Council. Gravitational manipulation has been activated. A gravitational force blasted forth from Gustav's frame, causing the Diaperonians to pause in midair. Their liquid form began coming apart, turning into multiple ashy drops that separated in midair. However, the captain, who was swiveling across the ground, had managed to reach Wong's foot. "Yeah, who? Hong screamed as he ran around, swinging his limbs to get rid of the captain, but the Diaperonian had firmly stuck to him and spread around his entire body in a moment. "I told you guys to be careful," Gustav voiced with a slight tone of frustration. FYI, Wong left a green blur across the place in the next instant. Bang, 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 bang. Ugh. Grr. Matilda, Fildhor, and Abestos were knocked backwards with intensity as Wong threw a series of punches at them while moving at incredible speed. "He is being controlled. Stop him," Gustav said to the others, who quickly activated their bloodlines and tried to catch him. Wong happened to be too fast for them, and they were holding back so as to avoid seriously injuring him, so it was proving difficult to catch him. Endrick ascended into the air and clasped his hands together in a bid to catch Wong with his telekinesis, but surprisingly Wong managed to barely escape it and leapt into the air. It seemed like he was going for Endrick when the Diaperonian captain suddenly phased out of Wong's body in midair, dropping towards Gustav's head. Gustav's eyes squinted in disappointment as he turned around and stared upwards. Spatial construct bloodline activated. The Diaperonian captain descent was no match for his speed as Gustav raised his glowing index finger and drew square-shaped lines in midair. Fwywai, the gooey substance closing in on Gustav's face, fell into a square-shaped glowing opened in the next instant. "Pah!" Gustav snapped his finger, and the opening disappeared instantly, trapping the Diaperonian captain within. The white glowing lines Gustav had drawn initially formed a passageway to a spatial world he had created which suppressed the strength of supernatural beings. "So what are we going to do now? Babysit them?" Yonda asked with an irritated tone. Gustav turned back around to face the Diaperonians who were floating in droplets all over the place. He didn't respond to Yonda. Instead, he created another spatial prison and trapped the rest of the 15 Diaperonian participants within. "Is that even allowed?" Fildhor asked. "There were no rules against such, so I see no issues," Rhea voiced in response. "Like I said before, we shall gather more eggs in the meantime," Gustav stated while moving ahead. "We might not even need to take any more since the Diaperonians are subdued, but I guess Gus wants to be on the safe side," E voiced as he opened a vortex in the spectators' area. They watched footage of battles ongoing in multiple areas of the fourth disc. It was happening just as Gustav predicted. Since only a few days were left before the Viander Egg Challenge would come to an end, the planets who had acquired lesser or no egg at all went after the planets that had eggs in their possession. Due to this, battles had broken out unlike the first 2 weeks. It was like a war was currently ongoing. The kids have disappeared, and this time with Gustav, Grand Commander Cheyenne voiced. "You should be glad. That means they're okay, and far from the whole ruckus," Miss Amy responded from the side. "It makes me even more worried that we can't see them on any of the screens," Grand Commander Cheyenne forehead creased. "It real. Amy of Earth, the council will see you now," a voice was heard from behind as a small circular board-like platform floated in midair towards the Earth spectators area. "Of Earth? I guess, for now," Miss Amy wanted to refute, but then realized that she was planning to speak with them as a representative of sorts. She stood to her feet and floated onto the board with Grand Commander Cheyenne following beside her. The board-like platform floated higher into the air and soon disappeared into the western distance. Over an hour had gone by already, and the Earth participants had managed to gather around 4 more Viander eggs. They were currently within the Zerg's territory. Be careful when they get back here. I have set up protective measures, but it might not be enough, Gustav said to the Zerg chief. Due to my slave, I have insight as to the mechanisms of their abilities. I shall be careful savior, the Zerg chief responded. I thought we were here to take their egg, Yonda stated with a grumpy tone. Gustav ignored the complaints of Yonda and the other teammates who shared the same thoughts. He stared at the back of his hand where the whitish mark was located. I will be able to come back here after this, but the same can't be said for them, Gustav thought internally. In the next few seconds, the glow on the white mark emitted completely diminished, and everyone began to feel an internal pull, a glow emitted from Earth participants forming a kind of spiral that decreased in size till everyone vanished from view. The chief of the Zerg stood in place for some time before reaching to grab the club-like weapon strapped to his back. He held the weapon up before speaking. Prepare for war. The upside-down horn on his scalp glowed immensely immediately after he gave the command. All sort of creatures began materializing around him, including the female Diaperonian he had acquired recently. The Zergs also began to move helter-skelter across the place as preparations for battle started. He'll take the savior advice and inform the others as well. I swear we better win this thing, or he'll be damn pissed, Yonda voiced the instant everyone returned to the green water body area. Our winning depends on if no one above the surface here manages to acquire more eggs, Gustav voiced in response. The Diaperonians can sacrifice more of their participants and keep going back there. How are we even supposed to find them? Yonda questioned once more. Gustav had explained to everyone that the moment the Diaperonians ran out of time like they did, they would get pulled out of the dimension between the 4th and 5th disk, returning to the surface as well. This also meant that the spatial prison he kept them in would be unable to hold them, so they would inevitably be free. Since they could just sacrifice another teammate, this meant they could get into the dimension again. Gustav could try heading back to where the chief of the Zerg showed him the corpses were found, but he knew things would be different this time. He had sent the Diaperonians very far from where he found them doing the ritual for the portal. Since they would have to sacrifice a teammate in another location, it technically meant the corpse would be sent to a different location this time as well. There was no point in wasting any time waiting in that cave. The Diaperonians won't be able to acquire any more Viander eggs from down there, Gustav voiced before turning around. What do you mean by that? Fildhor questioned. Let's focus on up here. Things will be fine down there. Gustav began stepping forward out of water body area with an icy ceiling covering. The others slowly followed after him, not questioning like Yonda did. They had enough trust in Gustav, so they could tell that he must have put some kind of precautions in place. The group soon arrived on a terrain of plain icelands that covered as far as the normal eyes could see, with a couple of frosted trees in different areas. Now we form a hideout, Gustav stated while his skin turned green. Are you saying this threat encompasses the entire universe, or is it just an Earth issue? Within an unknown space with spherical shapes, glowing tiles all around, a group of 7 sat on extended seats with different heights. They seemed to be in a conversation with the enchanting but cold-looking lady sporting ash-colored hair and clad in white flowing linen. A threat that large isn't going to affect Earth alone, Miss Amy responded. From what you have told us, only Earth seemed to be affected, as well as the planet that you and offspring of Earth created. I see no reason why the entire alliance should be alarmed, one of the group of 7 with a teal-glowing rhombus-shaped head stated. I can't tell if you have ears based on the way your head is shaped, or you are just being stupid. So listen to the words coming out of my mouth again. Miss Amy threw away any formalities at this point. How dare you? Does this earthling have no manners? Miss Amy ignored their voices of displeasure and resumed speaking. 62C5B294270F9 add 975E. Follow current novels on topnovelful.com. Chapter 1211 How dare you? Does this earthling have no manners? I should smite you where you stand if it wasn't for Earth being amongst the leaders of the Alliance. The teal-glowing, rhombus head-shaped member voiced with a tone of dissatisfaction. Miss Amy ignored their voices of displeasure and resumed speaking. The entire universe will be affected. This threat has only appeared in the Milky Way for now, but 4 more anomalies are coming that will appear in other different parts of the universe. After the 5th anomaly, things will be at a very dangerous level, and trying to prepare countermeasures against the incoming threat at that time would be too late. Grand Commander Cheyenne, who stood beside her, had rays of light extending from the diamond like stone embedded in his forehead, which displayed holographic footage of the incredibly massive and mythical eye that appeared in the Milky Way. Its appearance in the footage casted a ray of subtle gloom and disturbance across the entire vicinity, causing the 7 to wonder in silence for a little while. Grand Commander Cheyenne inwardly sighed in relief, since the rhombus-shaped headed council member didn't try to get physical with Miss Amy. He knew better than anyone how that would end, especially since her real body was present on Ozius currently. How does this prove that it is a universal and not an Earth problem? Are we just going to take your word for it? A member with uncountable tapeworm-like face finally broke the silence. Yes, you should. I have no reason to save this rotten universe if it wasn't for him. If he is gone, rest assured, I can let the entire universe get buried with him. Miss Amy replied with an inhospitable tone. Who is him? The council members voiced with tones of confusion. Ahem, council lords. What she is trying to say is, this isn't something Earth can handle on its own. Grand Commander Cheyenne quickly butted in. Even if this is just an Earth issue, we are one of the leading bodies of the Alliance, so it is well within your graciousness to assist. We ask that after ISOP is concluded, there be an Alliance meeting involving all the leaders as well as leading members to discuss this. Grand Commander Cheyenne followed up with this. Currently, the Alliance of Planets had a leading body of 20 planets, Earth included. The leading bodies each had 1 representative who were referred to as Council Lords. These Council Lords practically led a body of over 3,000 planets who were all under the Alliance. The thousands of planets underneath them also had representatives as well, but only the leading representatives from the leading planets in the Alliance were referred to as Council Lords. Currently, only around 7 Council Lords were available in this meeting, while the others were currently indisposed, including that of Earth's. An Alliance meeting where every single representative under the Alliance would gather had not been held in over 500 years. Usually, it could only be issued by the Council Lords when there was a very important matter that concerned the fate of the entire universe or just the planets connected to the Alliance. Despite Earth being one of the 20 leaders of the Alliance, they couldn't just issue a meeting without the agreement of 9 other Council Lords. It would be considered a matter of utmost significance if the Council Lords were to agree to an Alliance meeting. We shall think about it and come to a conclusion before the end of ISOP, the Council Lord, who looked similar to a handler, voiced. We shall await your favorable response, Grand Commander Cheyenne said with a respectful tone, before gesturing at Miss Amy for them to leave. Miss Amy threw a glare at them for an instant, causing the Council Lords to feel chills run down their spines. Let's go, Amy, he voiced with a pleading tone. Miss Amy turned around at this point and walked out with him. After they left, some of the Council Lords heaved sighs of relief as the pressure within the vicinity van sighed. What do we do about this? One of them questioned. We have to inform the other Council Lords first, except for Council Lord Jean, since he sent them The fourth disk went on to be chaotic for the next couple of days while the Earth candidates found a place to hide out, while everywhere else was in turmoil. Gustav decided to check the notification he had ignored these past few days. Quest completed. Successfully bring the rest of Earth's candidate into the dimension in between the fourth and fifth disk. Rewards plus 10,000,000 EXP. Gustav proceeded to check his attributes to confirm the addition of the EXP. Host attributes name: Gustav Crimson level 132 class. Metamorphic parallel being XP 12,000/97,300,000 HP 250,000/250,000 energy 420,000/420,000. Attributes: Strength 557 Perception, 549 Mental Fortitude, 552 Agility, 550 Speed, 555 Bravery, 554 Intelligence, 557 Charm, 172 Defense, 551 Rho Alpha D Alpha and Nu Vitality, 554 Alpha D Alpha Eta Theta Nu Epsilon Thetam. Attributes points 123 underscore 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 underscore. How many more levels till max? Gustav asked internally as he stared at the stats before him. Now, why would I tell you that? The system responded with a rhetorical question, just as expected. You never tell me anything. Gustav scoffed internally. I still have that one piece of information it'll reveal after ISOP, the system voiced. Sure. At this point, Gustav didn't expect anything from the system besides its usual annoying daily tasks and occasional quests. On the bright side, he got stronger every day, even if he decided not to channel his bloodline due to the attribute points he gets from the system after the completion of daily tasks. Alien ability upgrade. Which ability does host wish to upgrade? Gustav internally made a decision, and in the next instant another notification popped up. Upgrading Techify by Dimension. Gustav's face turned completely dark and whirly, causing the others around to stare at him in confusion. 0/100%. Fortunately, they weren't sucked into the sixth dimension due to the fact that it was currently in the process of upgrade. 10/100%, 30/100%, 60/100%, 99/100%, 100%. Upgrade complete. Gustav's face returned to normal upon the completion of the upgrade, and he was about to dismiss the system pop-ups in his face when a new notification appeared. New Techify ability unlocked. Oh, the upgrade triggered a new ability from that alien, Gustav said internally as he checked the system stats in relation of alien life form abilities. Alien life form abilities. He spotted the new ability, and multiple speculations began to play out in his mind. Sixth dimension reanimation. Double the range of where the darkness appears. Maybe if I activated it now, the darkness appears on my back, and anyone who stares at it gets sucked in. Amongst Gustav's many speculations, this was one of the sensible ones, but at the same time, he wasn't convinced since this would be more of an upgrade than a new ability. It could be that the creatures within I can... Before Gustav could complete this thought, an air-shredding sound rang out. Three boom. Along with it came collision and explosion that caused a part of the Iro silk surrounding them to crumble instantly as the environment trembled immensely from the impact. The entire group was instantly alarmed as they all jumped to their feet. You didn't sense that? The system questioned. I did, but it was too late and sudden, Gustav replied as he stood to his feet and slowly stepped through the gap created from the explosion. Fog had covered the vicinity due to the blast, but as it reduced, a group of 20 extending powerful pressure across the environment could be spotted stepping forward. They all emitted a look of confidence and ridiculous air of strength that caused the approaching opposition to pause for an instant subconsciously. We finally found you, Earthlings, one of them yelled with a tone of desperation. Up ahead, the group could see 12 participants clad in massive red quill-like outfits with an upside-down cone-shaped head. On the left was another 17 participants with gem-like humanoid bodies, possessing just a single eye in the middle of their stone-like head. On the right was yet another group of 13 phantom-like creatures with a spear-like object in the middle of their heads. Behind these three different groups, at the forefront, were two more approaching groups. They all looked like they had come for war, emitting intense, malicious auras. "What do you guys want?" Gustav questioned as he stood in front of his teammates. "Nothing much. Just hand over the viand eggs in your possession, and we shall be on our way," one of the participants in the red quill-like outfit stated. Chapter 12:12. Nothing much. Just hand over the viand eggs in your possession, and we shall be on our way, one of the participants in the red quill-like outfit stated. "We've worked to gather these eggs. They have been acquired as a result of hard work. I'll advise you lots to leave now while you still can and work to gather eggs for yourselves as well." Eldris voiced calmly, but inputted a subtle threat. "This is us working to gather eggs. Hand it over, Earthlings," one of the gem-like humanoid figures stated. "You will have more success gathering the eggs in my black sack, you oddly shaped motherfuck asterisk RS," EE yelled out while raising a middle finger. "I don't know what that means. We're not giving you the eggs. Leave now and save yourselves the trouble of needing medical care," Gustav stated. At this point, the oppositions were clear on the fact that peaceful negotiations or threats wouldn't work. "Get them." Hiya. The oppositions charged forward with some immediately channeling attacks in the next instant. Only a little over a day was left till the viand egg challenge would come to an end. Gustav wanted to make sure they had gathered enough to stay in the first spot, so he decided to max the group engage in the incoming battle instead of asking EB to open a vortex to honor her location. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of powerful collisions soon rang out as the group of Earthlings faced the other groups simultaneously. Gustav immediately went for one of the strongest amongst the opposition up ahead. The red quill-like outfits the group in the middle were clad in had turned into 6 pair of wings with bottle-shaped white bodies in between. With a swing of one of their wings, red sharp energy would cut across the air, splitting the ground open ahead. Fuhush! Hover has been activated. Gustav swerved sideways across the air, escaping the wing slashes as he arrived before the first Threndethran. The captain of the Threndethran spun repeatedly across the air, sending out multiple of the massive quills on Biss' body like giant blades. Clang, 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 clang. Gustav waved his hands across the air multiple times, slapping the quills that shot in his direction before they could make contact with him. All that could be seen from one angle was afterimages of his hands, moving way faster than the normal eye could see. Kairar, Erf, Alpha D Alpha Eta Theta Nu Epsilon, Fyi. Gustav sped forward at incredible speed and caught the head of the captain of the Threndethrans before swooping downwards. Fias, the captain hissed as he found himself unable to fight against Gustav's strength upon their descent. Boom! Gustav slammed him into the ground heavily, causing the ground to cave in as shock waves blasted across the vicinity. Bang! 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 Multiple more Threndethrans were sent flying by the blast of the residual energy. Gustav wasted no time in charging forward, once more picking a new opposition to deal with. On the other side, Eldris opened his eyes, causing the world around him to lose color. His calm demeanor as he made powerful strides across the vicinity struck a fear of the unknown within the hearts of the oppositions before him. The gem-like humanoid figures emitted bright light from their beings, but due to Eldris absorbing color from the surroundings, everything seemed to be black and white. Thuhum firing black and white beams from their stone-like face, Eldris tanked the attacks with his palm, causing him to occasionally slide backwards as mist erupted from his hands. How is the Earthling doing this? The Jeeksker were surprised that their attacks were barely having any effect on him. It was like they had been completely weakened. "You can have them back in high definition," Aeldris said as he slightly raised his palm, which was emitting a green glow. He turned his palm towards them, and out came the beams they had fired at him, but this time with color. Roalfa dialfa enu amwaiwaya boom. Arf! The participants yelled in terror as the green pillar of light slammed into them, with the effectiveness increased. The icy mountain behind them instantly spilt open, and a lot of them lost body parts from the attack. Aeldris pressed forward unrelenting, as there were still quite the number of them. And Endrick, who were positioned on the right, dealt with the phantom-like participants together. Endrick had used his telekinesis to cause the ground covering a particular radius to float in midair. Their battle was taking place in the sky, as multiple projectiles shot at Endrick, while made use of his vortexes to send the projectiles to the rest of the oppositions on the battlefield. Alevra and Sheila had gone ahead of the rest to take care of the other groups arriving. Unfortunately, Alevra couldn't do anything but watch as Sheila took them down at a very quick pace. The air cracked like glass as Sheila unleashed her power, causing the approaching opponents to question their vision and sense of perception. With a swing of her hand, multiple participants would have their limbs turning to wood and their sensory organs shifting places across their bodies. Alevra was in awe, but this was to be expected, since besides Gustav, Sheila seemed to be the strongest, especially since her bloodline rank was the highest as well. From the surface, it seemed like Alevra and Aeldris were third in terms of strength, but Endrick happened to surpass them. The group just wasn't aware yet. Wong took care of some of the participants that had sustained heavy injury or passed out. Gustav had instructed him to take them somewhere else due to his plans. Yonda lunged forward, stabbing his finger into the air as a new group of participants arrived. Thryohan, a pillar of energy blasted into the sky, knocking some milky, glowing 1 feet tall creatures to the ground. The planet groups that had come to attack the Earth participants were around 10 in number, making it over 100 individual opponents. Gustav's perception had spread across the entire vicinity, so he could tell that they were all arriving from a particular direction, which he found strange. There were still more incoming as they dealt with the ones here. These planets were not weak, but compared to Earth's standing, they were considerably less powerful, so Gustav, and the others had no difficulty battling multiple of them at the same time. "We're leaving," Gustav instructed. "Wait, why?" Fildhor, who was having much fun dealing with the opponents, questioned. Make a vortex now and send us 1,600 miles to the south," Gustav instructed. "Hiya!" More of the participants from different planets were still charging with intensity, but Gustav had made his decision. Turooi and conjured up a portal, and Wong proceeded to speed in and out multiple times while carrying unknown participants. The others headed in quickly, while Endrick made use of telekinesis to string a couple of unconscious bodies along with him. "Don't let them get away." A participant behind conjured a massive white, chaotic ball, which shot forward with speed. However, before it could meet its target, the vortex closed up and vanished completely. The ground instantly caved in upon the impact of the projectile, leaving yet another hole in the area. This place that had turned into a battlefield was completely wrecked. Even after Gustav and the others had left, there were still more participants from other planets arriving here to partake in the assault. "Why did we leave? We were winning," Yonda complained the instant they arrived before the entry point of a frosted cave. "We can't fight them all," Gustav replied. "What do you mean?" "We were kicking their ass up there," Yonda stated with a grumpy look. "And how many more do you think you can fight before you wear out? Before stronger groups arrive? Do you think you can fight an entirety of 2,000 planetary group each with 20 participants?" Gustav threw out consecutive questions at Yonda, causing him to keep quiet. "Why would we have to fight that many, though? They can't all find us. Fildhor questioned. They actually can. It is not a coincidence that this many know of our location. I believe Gustav figured out that there's something fishy going on, Falco responded. Since they knew of our location initially, we can be assured that they will figure this one out as well. However, before they do, we could find out how they came to know of our location in the first place, Gustav voiced while turning to stare at the 12 different species laying on the ground unconscious by the side. Some of them were missing limbs and oozing different blood colors, but Gustav was unbothered. Mental manipulation has been activated. Wake up. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.